Chapter 13:26. Hope shattered, fear and panic were often accompanied by anger. Werno's admission of defeat instantly ignited public opinion. They had been looking forward to the three universal civilizations sending people to destroy Black Star's arrogance, but reality shattered their fantasies. No one could stop Black Star. Many galactic residents were afraid and angry, which turned into anger. Fine, you're strong individually, and the three universal civilizations can't compare to you, but we still have a fleet and a regular army. I don't believe we can't stop you. Since they could not win in terms of individual strength, a large number of galactic residents immediately turned to believe in the collective strength of the three universal civilizations. They found a new reason to convince themselves and found a new source of confidence. Today was already the last day of the ultimatum. The public opinion had completely gone to the extreme, supporting the three universal civilizations to clean up the association. Everyone was agitated. The Beyond Grade A Association is just a civilian organization. Daring to go against the three universal civilizations is undoubtedly the act of a wanted criminal. Think about it, the government wants to control you, but you don't obey. Isn't that breaking the law? Oh, you can break the law just because you established a civilian organization? Why? Isn't it because they rely on their strength to do whatever they want? Let's be honest, Beyond Grade As have always been unstable factors. They enjoy privileges and don't care about the universal laws of the galaxy. If it were up to me, we should either bring them all under the supervision of the civilization or kill them all, lest they endanger the galactic society. Today is the bitter fruit. Beyond Grade As are just the representatives of the supers. All supers should be controlled. Only then can order be guaranteed. Many public security incidents are related to supers. Without them, public security will improve. Ever since the Sanctum revival appeared, the three universal civilizations had begun to guide public opinion, provoke anger, and deliberately incite the opposition between ordinary people and supers. This lasted for more than a year, and like a spring, it became tighter and tighter. At this turning point, the dissatisfaction of a large number of people toward the supers finally erupted. Countless galactic residents vented their anger, wishing that all Beyond Grade As and supers would die. Although it was very extreme, it was indeed the true portrayal of the hearts of some galactic residents. Their genes destined them to be ordinary people. This was even more despairing than the gap between the rich and the poor. Almost everyone more or less hid their resentment towards the unfairness of fate and their unwillingness to accept it. If there was a chance, quite a number of people would not mind revealing their hatred for supers. However, the anger of public opinion on the quantum network was of no help to the current situation and could not affect Han Zhao's actions. Han Zhao sat in the middle of the battlefield and glanced at the joint fleet of the three universal civilizations. After Werno's admitted defeat, the other direct members seemed to have fallen silent. On the last day of the ultimatum, they actually did not attack in vain. Looks like they've finally learned their lesson. Han Zhao let out a sigh of relief. This time, they had been rather successful in establishing their might. They had kept a low profile for many years and had once again amazed the world with their overwhelming combat strength. Not only had they given the association members confidence, but they had also dealt a blow to the enemy's morale. At the same time, they had also obtained a mission reward. Just then, the mecha's internal communicator rang, connecting to Manason's channel. Your progress is always beyond my expectations. Manason had mixed feelings. He was also shocked by Han Zhao's results, and could not help but feel jealous. It's all right, just at the level of an ordinary person. Han Zhao was humble. All right, he was still as shameless as ever. Manason was speechless for a while. After adjusting his mood, he curiously said, Your mechanical deity is a little different. Is it a new technology? There seems to be traces of the felons in it. That's right, I borrowed some of the principles of the felons. Han Shao nodded and admitted. Manison was silent. Ah, another trump card technology was secretly learned by Black Star. My heart hurts. He wanted to be angry, but he realized in despair that he had already gotten used to the feeling of being secretly learned. Taking a deep breath, Manison calmed himself down and said in a low voice, "What's the principle behind this technology? Can you tell me?" "I can, but you won't be able to learn it." Han Shao shrugged. "This technology is tailor-made for me. The premise is that you have extremely strong physical recovery. You're too fragile." "Isn't it normal for mechanics to be fragile? You're the only one who's different and has the right to laugh at us." Manison pressed his hand to his heart and calmed down for a while. He did not want to talk about this annoying topic anymore. He changed the topic and his tone became serious as he said in a deep voice, "That's right. Today is the last day of the ultimatum. I've already prepared for war. How are things on your side?" Han Shao nodded. "The association's people have been arranged at strategic locations in the various star fields. If nothing goes wrong, some people have already started to move. War is a shortcut to peace. After today, we and the 3 universal civilizations will rely on our own abilities. I hope the era will continue in our hand." Manison sighed. Han Shao curled his lips and did not comment. After sighing for a while, Manison was about to turn off the communication when he suddenly remembered something. My halberd is broken, but the other universal treasures I lent you aren't broken. You took them all away. When are you going to return them to me?" Hey, are you treating me like an outsider? We're so close. How can I swallow your universal treasures? What kind of person do you take me for?" Han Shao was immediately filled with righteous indignation. Manison sneered. "You don't do anything related to humans at all, and you still have the face to ask me what kind of person I take you for? You're not human at all. Just tell me when you'll return it. When I defeat the 3 universal civilizations' fleet, I'll return it to you." "Hey, you clearly wanted to say that you'll return it to me after you're done with your research." Manison glanced at Han Shao, snorted, and turned off the communication. He had long been worn down by Han Shao. Furthermore, they had known each other for so many years and knew each other well. When he lent it out, he had long been mentally prepared, so he was not surprised at all. "As expected of you, Black Star." Han Shao turned off the communication interface. Seeing that the 3 universal civilizations did not make a move, he opened the interface and looked at the mission reward. The direct members of the 3 universal civilizations did not trigger a single challenge mission, but a mission similar to the one when he sparred with Joey and the others. The length of time he lasted determined the reward, and the highest reward was 7 character summon cards and 5 random ability draws. He could choose any participant as his draw target. Werno's solo challenge triggered a regular beyond grade A challenge mission, and the reward was a character summon card and a random draw. Looks like I won in the end. I didn't come for nothing." Han Xiaoxin felt much better and was comforted. The battle was imminent and his hands were itching. However, after thinking about it, he resisted the urge to draw immediately. He had already achieved his goal of establishing his dominance. If they fought tomorrow, the 3 universal civilizations' joint fleet would attack, and the direct members would most likely all take action. Han Shao would not continue to fight alone. Recruiting people was also a good tradition of the association, so he naturally had to carry it forward. He had never been afraid of competing with who had more people, so he was not in a hurry to settle the rewards. What a pity! If only I could make the 3 universal civilizations take a step back. Han Shao shook his head. Thinking of a previous thought, he could not help but stroke the communicator. He was hesitant about whether he should call the 3 universal civilizations' heads and reveal the news of the World Tree civilization to divert the internal conflict. The ideal situation was, of course, for the 3 universal civilizations to believe this, temporarily put down their hostility, and work together to deal with the external enemies. Although it would cause the World Tree War to come early, it would preserve a lot of their strength and not exhaust it in advance. However, with the current tense situation and the current relationship between the two sides, he felt that the probability of the three universal civilizations' heads believing him was very low. They would most likely treat it as an excuse to admit defeat or a way to step back. If he could not convince the three universal civilizations' leaders, the two sides would still have to start a war. At the same time, the three universal civilizations might secretly study whether the information about the World Tree was true. In that case, not only would the explored universe lose a wave of military forces, the World Tree War might come even sooner, causing the three universal civilizations to have no time to recover. Therefore, Han Xiao was hesitating. It was difficult for him to confirm the butterfly effect of this action. Sigh, it's difficult. In the Beyond Grade A Association's online chat room, a group of Beyond Grade A remote projections were discussing. Many of them still had a look of surprise on their faces. Even Wernos can't deal with Black Star. He hasn't fought for decades, and his strength has actually reached such a level. Black Star is really an unbelievable guy. I thought he was going to suffer this time, but I didn't expect him to hold on. He fought the three universal civilizations alone and suppressed all the direct members. If I didn't witness it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed this was real. The Beyond Grade as were talking excitedly. They had watched the entire broadcast of Black Star fighting the direct members of the three universal civilizations alone, and they were more and more shocked every day. After Wernos admitted defeat, the entire circle was in an uproar. Even the publicly acknowledged strongest cheat, Wernos, could not take down Han Xiao, which shocked the entire Beyond Grade A circle. In everyone's eyes, this crown finally no longer belonged to Wernos but to Black Star. Not only was he the president of the Beyond Grade A Association, but he was also the undisputed number one Beyond Grade A, so his position as president was even more legitimate. I'm relieved that Black Star has such strength. Kasui relaxed. Many people nodded and smiled. The three universal civilizations had many trump cards, and many association members were worried that Black Star might encounter an accident, causing no one to be able to use the Sanctum Revival. Now that they saw that Black Star was unexpectedly strong, many people felt relieved. Kasui looked around, stopped smiling, and said with a deep voice, "All right, don't relax too much. Today is the last day of the ultimatum. Everyone, get ready and be on standby. Wait for Black Star to teleport us over to participate in the battle." Hearing this, everyone stopped smiling and became serious. Sun Hunter pulled the bolt and snorted. "I can finally show my strength. My cannon is already thirsty." In the three universal civilizations joint conference room, Marbruce, Lewis, and the ethereal Pope looked at the remote surveillance screen with ashen faces. This is outrageous. All the direct members have been sent out. With so many people, they can't even take down Black Star. How are they going to deal with the other Beyond Grade As? Marbruce slammed the table heavily, his tone filled with strong dissatisfaction. They lost. What they lost is the face of the civilization. They made us a stepping stone and made Black Star famous. Lewis was so angry that he almost suspected that these direct members were all incompetent. We can't blame them. Black Star is unbelievably strong. The ethereal Pope frowned. He was very dissatisfied with Wernos admitting defeat, but the impact had already been made. It was useless for him to criticize Wernos. He even regretted forcing Wernos to leave the Temple of 10,000 Gods this time. Looking at Black Star swaggering in front of the two armies, the three of them suddenly felt a wave of helplessness, anger, and helplessness. In terms of individual strength, they really could not suppress Black Star. The three of them were also at their wits' end. After all, they could not defeat him with high-end combat strength. If we want to deal with him, we can only rely on the army and various war weapons. Lewis's expression was solemn. He turned to look at the two of them. As soon as the notice arrives, we'll start the war. Are you sure? This day will come sooner or later. I only regret that I made up my mind to settle the score too late. I let the beyond grade as develop for so long and become a huge threat, the ethereal Pope said slowly. At this juncture, the ultimatum has already been called out. There's no way we can go back on our words. Marbruce nodded. All right, then order the various armies to act according to the battle plan. Before he could finish, the emergency communicator suddenly rang in the room. Lewis stopped and looked at Marbruce. The ringtone came from the dynasty ruler's direction. Marbruce took out the communicator and looked at it. It showed an emergency report sent by the dynasty's main artificial intelligence, Heroic Soul. The reports of the various departments were all reviewed by the main artificial intelligence and handed over to different positions to deal with according to priority. Disturbing him when he was in a meeting with the other two leaders meant that the main artificial intelligence judged that this news was very urgent. What report is this, Marbruce only read the beginning before his expression changed. He read the entire report in silence. He pondered for more than 10 seconds before turning to look at the other two with curiosity. You might want to see this, in the mechanical race's territory, on the last day of the ultimatum. Time passed minute by minute as they waited anxiously. The soldiers present and the countless galactic residents watching the broadcast felt like years. The clock gradually pointed to the time of the ultimatum. Like the signal of war getting closer and closer, the three universal civilizations and the Beyond Grade A Association's fleets had a slight commotion. The atmosphere was like a taut string, and the smell of gunpowder was getting stronger and stronger. In the Black Star Corps' fleet, a large number of army players were getting restless. It's coming, it's coming. The war is about to start. I've watched enough cutscenes. The main storyline is finally about to begin. For the army. The many army players rubbed their fists and could not wait for the two sides to start fighting immediately. On one hand, they wanted to see the world in chaos and wanted to participate in the main storyline. On the other hand, many people also saw the direction of public opinion on the internet and realized that so many people were criticizing, and insulting them, the immortals. As the target of criticism, the sense of immersion had always been quite strong. Many players were quite angry. However, at the same time, some players also had a deeper understanding of the mission name, Calamity of the Supers, and the conflict between the ordinary people and the Supers. As a member of the Supers, the sense of participation in the tide of the times arose spontaneously. This made some players who liked the storyline feel quite excited. They felt like they were witnessing the beginning of a great era with their own eyes. All crew, get ready for battle. The commander's voice spread throughout the battleships. Countless soldiers tensed up and looked at the timer. Dead silence spread. In the tense wait, time passed minute by minute, and it was getting closer and closer to the ultimatum. The hearts of the soldiers on both sides and the countless galactic residents were in their throat. Just as the war was about to break out, the three universal civilizations' joint fleet suddenly moved. The rear of the three universal civilizations changed to the front, and the joint fleet retreated in an orderly manner, leaving the confrontation area batch by batch, starting a large-scale withdrawal without warning. This scene stunned the troops of the Beyond Grade A Association and all the galactic residents watching the broadcast. The ultimatum was about to end. Why did the three universal civilizations suddenly retreat without saying anything? Didn't they say very firmly that they would never give in and that they had to fight? Why did they take the initiative to go back on their words now? They came aggressively, but when they left, they did not even say a word. On the quantum network, all the comments supporting the three universal civilizations' liquidation of the association were instantly silenced. They were shocked to find that things did not develop as they had imagined, and they were at a loss. This feeling was like the backing that had always stood up for them suddenly did not want to protect them anymore. Could it be that Black Star had defeated all the direct beyond grade as and made the three universal civilizations scared? It was difficult for many people not to think in this direction. At the same time, a similar guess appeared in the minds of many people. Could it be that the three universal civilizations' original intention was to scare the association and pressure the association to compromise, but they realized that this could not scare the association, and the other party was even tougher than them, so the three universal civilizations were scared and could no longer pretend, retreating resentfully and running away on the last day of the ultimatum? This, many galactic residents did not know what to say, and their feelings were very complicated. We all supported you guys to start a war, liquidate the Beyond Grade A Association, and solve the root of the instability in the Galactic Society, but you guys ran away yourselves? Are you worthy of our support? Although the expected war did not break out, which was worth celebrating, many people felt a little embarrassed. Thinking back to their previous support, they now felt like they had been slapped in the face by the three universal civilizations. On the other side, Han Shao watched the three universal civilizations retreat in an orderly manner and was also confused. After hesitating for a while, Han Shao took the initiative to call the dynasty ruler, but the other party did not pick up, which made him feel even more confused. They ran away just like that? This doesn't seem like their style. The three universal civilizations are not that scared, right? What happened? A few days ago, Central Galaxy, Dynasty Science Academy. The members of the wormhole detection team were gathered in the activity room, looking at the virtual screen worriedly. It was broadcasting the scene of the battle between Black Star and Claudie. In the past few days, they had stopped all the projects on hand and were all concerned about the next development of the galactic situation. This was closely related to their lives. Looks like there's going to be a war. In the crowd, someone whispered, and the room was filled with sighs, full of worry. All the researchers present were anti-war. On one hand, they were worried that the wormhole detection project would be stopped again after the war, and there would be no future development. On the other hand, from the conscience of normal people, they instinctively hated war. If only someone could stop this war, someone muttered in a low voice. Hearing this, the project director's eyes suddenly flashed. He clenched his teeth, turned around, and walked out of the activity room, returning to his office. He searched in the database for a while and pulled up a special wormhole detection report. Because he had been paying attention to the situation recently, he did not have time to report it. Hopefully, it will be of some use. The project director swallowed a mouthful of saliva and changed this report, changing the suspected existence of an unknown advanced civilization in the detection conclusion to confirmed existence of an unknown universal civilization. After doing all this, the project director did not send it to the review department but directly uploaded this report to the database of the dynasty's main artificial intelligence. This violated the operating rules and would definitely be punished. I don't know if it will work. The project director frowned and murmured to himself. In order to stop the possible outbreak of a galactic war, he was willing to do what he could to do. He was not sure if this trick would work, but he felt that if everyone just stood by and watched, nothing would change. Chapter 1327. The sudden retreat of the three universal civilizations before the deadline shocked the entire galactic society. They did not know what was going on and were confused. The comments supporting the war in the quantum network disappeared, and all kinds of sarcastic voices appeared. Yo, aren't the three universal civilizations very stubborn? They gave in just like that? TSK. Looks like the three universal civilizations can only put on an act. They've fully exposed their strength. You're still supporting them to start a war? Why don't you take the three universal civilizations seriously? The direction of public opinion changed again. Looking at these sarcastic comments, the galactic residents were speechless and furious. Not only were some supers watching the show, but there were also some organizations stirring up trouble behind the scenes. The Supercluster Alliance had been lying in wait, and now that they saw the opportunity, they immediately jumped out to add fuel to the fire, displaying their traditional skills and stirring up sh*t. On the other side, compared to the galactic residents, the players were even more confused. "That's it? I've been watching the cutscenes for 10 days, and you're saying you're not going to fight? What happened to an all-out war? Cowards! I've already taken off my pants, and you guys— Oh, I forgot, I can't take off my pants." Under the terrified gazes of the other crew members, the army players yelled, thumped their chests, and stomped their feet. They were all agitated, lamenting that the war did not break out smoothly. They were like a group of shocking war fanatics. The joint fleet of the three universal civilizations turned into dense hyperdrive streams of light and hurriedly retreated. Seeing this, Manison flew out of the fleet and stood side by side with Han Xiao, watching the three universal civilizations leave. Strange, they didn't even say goodbye and gave up on the siege just like that? Manison was confused. There must be something wrong with this. The three universal civilizations definitely didn't make such a big move just to trick us. It can be seen that they're really mentally prepared to start a war, but now, they'd rather go back on their words and retreat. There must be a huge change. Han Xiao stroked his chin and muttered softly. Maybe they're really scared? Manison said, then shook his head. He also felt that the possibility was not high. He guessed. Maybe the three universal civilizations' leaders thought it through and thought that the disadvantages of starting an all-out war with the association outweigh the benefits, so they changed their decision and took back the order. Then, the strategic goal of the virus technology leakage has been achieved? I'm not sure. The three universal civilizations will probably give an answer to the Galactic Society. Let's wait and see first. I'll also think of a way to find out the inside story. Maybe the three universal civilizations will take the initiative to contact me after some time. Han Zhao's eyes flickered as he pondered. Hearing this, Manison turned to look at him. Do you know something? It's just a guess. I don't have enough information, so I can't be sure. Han Xiao shook his head. At this time, his communicator rang and connected to the communication channel of the Beyond Grade A Association. Black Star, what's the situation on your side? The three universal civilizations aren't fighting anymore? What do they mean by this? Should we continue with our battle plan? As soon as the call was connected, the many Beyond Grade As immediately asked a series of questions. The many association members were also very confused. They were all mentally prepared to fight to the death. They had even taken off their pants, ready to fire at any time, but their opponents changed their minds and ran away. The fighting spirit that they had built up with much difficulty was suppressed in their hearts. This feeling was like suddenly seeing a speed limit sign and a traffic police officer staring at them from the side while they were preparing to race. They could only suppress the unrestrained feeling in their hearts. Didn't they say that whoever gave in was the coward? Why did they suddenly cower? You guys wait for orders first and observe the follow-up actions of the three universal civilizations, but don't be too relaxed. Be careful is just a diversion tactic. If they really want to make a move, they might directly use the multidimensional sky opening transportation device to attack strategic locations. Han Xiao reminded the association members to continue to be vigilant before hanging up. The three universal civilizations surrounding the mechanical race's territory was just a signal to force them to abdicate. In fact, attacking this place was useless. It was only a declaration of war. At this time, it was still impossible to determine what the three universal civilizations' intentions were. It was also possible that they would withdraw their troops on the surface and then use the multidimensional sky opening transportation device to attack. Seeing that Han Xiao had finished the call, Manison spoke again. What do we do now? The three universal civilizations have retreated. Are the troops here going to disperse? Han Shao thought for a while and shook his head. Don't retreat yet. Shrink the defense circle and continue to protect the mechanical race's territory. Wait until the three universal civilizations' joint fleet has left this star cluster before disbanding the troops. I'll go back first. Manison nodded, flew back to the main ship, and ordered the mechanical race troops. Han Shao retracted his gaze, changed into the king, and disappeared. Swoosh. The next second, he returned to a secret army base. This was where some of the officers who did not participate in the battle hid from the flames of war. There were some army officers and many members of Floating Dragon sitting in the room. Ames was among them, overseeing the situation. They were all watching the news broadcast in the mechanical race's territory. Seeing Han Shao suddenly appear, the gazes of the officers all focused on him. The respect and worship in their eyes were more than just a little stronger than before. It was as if they were looking at a god. You've been very brave these few days. Ames crossed her legs and leaned forward. She placed her arms on her knees and supported her chin with her palms. She tilted her head slightly, and her soft long hair flowed down. She blinked her eyes and said with a teasing tone. She had a smile that was not a smile. Don't you know if I'm brave or not? Han Shao raised his brows. Ames smiled. You should have a lot of things to deal with. Why are you here all of a sudden? I'm just here to take a look and make sure everything's fine. Han Shao casually found a reason, turned around and glanced at the officers. His gaze accurately landed on Phaidon, and he immediately smiled. He strode forward and rubbed his head, taking advantage of his luck. Fu Ding's face was filled with helplessness, as if he was going to let him do whatever he wanted. Seeing this, Aesop could not help but cough and say, You defeated all the direct descendants of the three universal civilizations. Even Wernos can't do anything to you. They'll definitely give up on attacking you in terms of individual strength. I don't know if the three universal civilizations retreated because of this, but they don't seem to want to start a war now. What are you going to do next? Hearing this, Han Shao stopped smiling. Let's figure out what's going on first. Anyway, don't be happy too early. If I'm unfortunately right, the situation will be even worse. The 10-day confrontation between the three universal civilizations and the association attracted the attention of the entire universe, but not many people expected it to end in such a way. After the joint fleet retreated, the three universal civilizations fell silent. Not only did they recall a portion of the army that they had sent out some time ago, they did not even make a public announcement to explain the reason for the retreat. The public opinion storm became more and more intense, and all kinds of speculations and theories popped up one after another. They thought that this would be the fuse for an all-out war, but the three universal civilizations pulled back at the last moment and stopped the flames of war that were about to erupt. This confrontation instead helped Black Star's reputation, basically solidifying his name as the current peak beyond grade A combatant. If there was a winner, only Black Star could barely be counted. Some people were glad that the flames of war had not started, some criticized the three universal civilizations for being cowards, and some mocked the galactic residents for thinking too highly of themselves. The public opinion changed, but there was one thing in common. Everyone was curious as to what had forced the three universal civilizations to choose to give in. Due to the silence of the three universal civilizations, no one knew the inside story. Even the Beyond Grade A Association did not make any public comments and was also watching. This caused the Galactic Society to have different opinions. In the joint conference room of the three universal civilizations, we've already repeatedly verified the authenticity of this report. Through the directional wormhole probe, we did find traces of the activities of an unknown civilization. The data itself is fine, but the conclusion of the project is hard to judge. The remote projection of the dynasty upper echelon in charge of the research field stood in front of Marbruce and the other two leaders, giving a serious report. So, we can't confirm that this unknown civilization is a universal civilization for the time being? Marbruce emphasized. This is indeed so, but the other party must be at the level of an advanced civilization. These days, we've frequently sent multifunctional space probes to the other party and collected more data, which proves that this unknown civilization has a rather high technological level. I understand. You guys continue to collect data while hiding yourselves. I want to know the details of this civilization. After giving a few more instructions, Marbruce hung up the communication. Only he and the other two civilization leaders were left in the room. Looks like the decision to retreat back then was correct, the ethereal Pope said with a deep voice. Or else we would be in deep trouble right now. This report came at the right time, Lewis agreed, feeling a little relieved. On the last day of the confrontation, they had originally wanted to act according to the battle plan, but this wormhole report from the Dynasty's Science Institute had shaken their decision. The three universal civilizations had always been dedicated to exploring the unknown universe, and this wormhole report had discovered an unknown universal civilization. This was a huge threat. In this regard, the three universal civilizations had rich experience. Once an external enemy appeared, they would have to carefully deal with internal conflict. This was undoubtedly not a good time to deal with the imbalance of personal strength, so it was not suitable to continue tangling with the beyond grade as. At that time, the arrow was already on the bow, and there was not much time left for the three of them to discuss. In the end, they would rather believe it and stop the battle plan, choosing to give in to the association. They turned around and used a large number of resources to investigate this wormhole data. This wormhole data was one of the legacies ES-God had left behind. Because ES-God had been sealed for many years, it had long become an unimportant project. However, with such a shocking discovery, it went from almost no one interested in it to the project with the highest priority. The progress was directly supervised by the leaders of the three universal civilizations and was extremely important. In the end, although the conclusion of this wormhole report was somewhat exaggerated, the data was correct. They had indeed discovered an unknown advanced civilization. As for whether or not it was a universal civilization, it was still uncertain. If that was the case, it could only be said that this was an inaccurate conclusion that had a measurable value. Marbruce knocked on the table and slowly said, "The most important thing to do now is to investigate this unknown civilization. The most important thing now is to collect information on this unknown civilization and determine their strength, social structure, attitude, and so on. Everything else can be put aside for now." Lewis and the ethereal Pope nodded. The three universal civilizations had a set of strategic plans in this regard. Direct contact or war was impossible. Once they discovered an advanced civilization in the unexplored universe, their first task was to carefully collect information without exposing themselves. Then, they would choose different countermeasures based on this civilization's strength, culture, and other factors. Only by knowing yourself and your enemy would you be able to win 100 battles. Although the explored universe had entered the Galactic Society era, the entire unexplored universe was still in the Dark Forest period similar to the Exploration era. Being in the dark was a huge advantage, so they naturally had to make good use of it. Don't forget, before we explore further, we have to take all measures to deal with any accidents, the ethereal Pope said. I understand. Marbruce nodded. The measures that the three of them were talking about were mainly war mobilization and being prepared to launch strategic weapons of destruction into the enemy's territory through wormholes at any time. In some extreme situations, they would not mind directly blowing up the enemy's territory and turning it into a desolate universe belt, wiping out all the creatures of the unknown civilization. They would not show any mercy. This is a matter of great importance. If a war really breaks out, the Beyond Grade A Association is also a powerful armed force. Should we let them know now? Lewis's eyes flashed. He raised a sensitive question and turned to ask the other two for their opinions. The existence of a Beyond Grade A threatened their rule, but at the same time, it was a weapon to fight against the outside world. Now that the situation had changed, their thoughts changed as well. In their eyes, there was no eternal enemy. The ethereal Pope pondered for a moment, waved his hand, and expressed his opinion. Let's be careful. We haven't figured out the situation of this unknown civilization, so there's no need to reveal it to the association now. Think about it, if this unknown civilization can coexist and also have universal strength, once they enter the galactic society system, the association will have another choice to rely on. This will affect the structure of the galaxy. We can't guarantee the association's loyalty, so we should keep it a secret for now. Makes sense. Bruce nodded. Let's not announce this to the outside world for now. Let's explore it in secret first. We'll consider whether to announce it or not when we need the association's help. It won't be too late to tell them then. The way the three of them saw it, there was clearly no need to inform the other organizations of such a big matter immediately. They were all potential unstable factors that might cause some trouble. If that's the case, let's put aside our dispute with the association for now. Stabilize those Beyond Grade As, don't let them cause any trouble, and live peacefully for now. Anyway, this is the goal of Black Star and the others. We'll find a reason to unify with them, and convey our intention to stop fighting. This will make the association feel that we've given in. Lewis suggested. The other two nodded in agreement. While they could not deal with the association for now, as long as the Beyond Grade As did not cause trouble, it was enough for them. At this time, Bruce thought of something and his eyes flashed. If he remembered correctly, Black Star also had this set of wormhole data from God's legacy. He seemed to have even specifically asked the dynasty about the research progress of this set of wormhole data. From the looks of it, could it be that Black Star knew something? As this thought flashed through his mind, Bruce shook his head. He felt that the possibility of this was extremely limited. Instead of asking Black Star, it was more trustworthy to explore on his own. Furthermore, they had just reached a consensus to not leak this secret to the outside world, so even if Black Star might know something, he did not plan to ask. After all, the other party was still the leader of the organization that led the fight against the three universal civilizations. In a certain base of the Black Star Corps, the Army Commander's office, a huge star map of the universe floated in the room. On it were the large-scale movements of the various armies of the three universal civilizations, drawing many arrowhead routes. Han Xiao stood in front of the star map, carefully looking at the three universal civilizations' troop movements during this period. It had been some time since the three universal civilizations retreated from the mechanical race's territory. These days, the three universal civilizations' troop movements were very abnormal. Originally, they were stationed in the various star fields, preparing to deal with the Beyond Grade A Association, but now they had all returned to the central galaxy, as if they had no intention of starting a war. The strangest thing was that the three universal civilizations had been pretending to be mute. They did not make an announcement, nor did they contact him, the president of the association, to explain their intentions. Their actions were very abnormal, as if they did not have the time to care about him. He had been thinking of ways to find out the inside story these days, but the three universal civilizations were highly secretive this time, and no relevant information was leaked. Could it be that I guessed right? Han Xiao muttered to himself. What could make the three universal civilizations change their decision at the last moment? In this version, there did not seem to be many possibilities, but the butterfly effect he had caused had changed many things. One of them was that God had allowed the dynasty to obtain the key to the World Tree Civilization's territory early, becoming an unstable factor. The way he saw it, the most likely situation was that the three universal civilizations had discovered the World Tree. Because of the existence of external enemies, the three universal civilizations had retreated so decisively without any warning. If that's the case, the three universal civilizations will definitely conduct in-depth research on the wormhole. They might inform me, or they might keep it a secret from the outside world. With the three universal civilizations' style and my current identity, the latter is more likely. Han Xiao frowned and bit his fingernails. He had a bad feeling. If the three universal civilizations chose to keep it a secret and explore on their own, they would not know enough about the World Tree Civilization, and the risk of being exposed would be very high. If the contact was unavoidably brought forward, if he continued to hide the information about the World Tree, it would increase the risk. Perhaps now was the best time to reveal the information. However, he could also be wrong. If the three universal civilizations gave in because they had discovered the World Tree, it would be self-defeating. So, it's still a gamble. Should I gamble? Han Zhao's expression changed. Beep beep beep. At this moment, his communicator rang. He took it out and saw that it was a call from a dynasty emissary. Hello, Your Excellency Black Star. As soon as the call went through, the dynasty emissary nodded respectfully. Han Xiao sized him up and went straight to the point. You're finally going to explain your actions? You must be joking. This time, I'm here to negotiate with you on behalf of the three universal civilizations. We're willing to accept the association's suggestion and allow you to control the virtual mutiny virus technology. The dynasty emissary said a lot, but the core meaning was that the three universal civilizations were willing to give in, indicating that they did not need Madison to hand over the virus technology, and that they believed in the association's guarantee. They would allow the association to control this high-risk technology, and they would not interfere. Oh! Han Xiao raised his brows. Since you've admitted that the association's guarantee is valid, you've admitted that the association is correct. What about the ban on the association? It won't be lifted for the time being, but it can be discussed. The dynasty emissary smiled. Looking at the other party's cold smile, Han Xiao felt more and more the subtle attitude of the three universal civilizations. His expression immediately changed, and he was in a dilemma. His intuition grew stronger, and he felt that he might have guessed the truth. After a few seconds of silence, Han Xiao slowly took a deep breath. It's a gamble. Making up his mind, Han Xiao narrowed his eyes and said, I've understood your intentions. I understand your intentions. Help me tell Marbruce something. What is it? You guys are so abnormal. It seems like you've finally cracked the wormhole data in God's legacy, right? Chapter 1328. An hour later, in the meeting room of the three universal civilizations leaders, Han Zhao's remote projection slowly entered the room, and he immediately saw the three old fellows with gloomy faces. Their gazes were like hooks, hanging on him. Yo, you're all here. Han Xiao was not in a hurry at all and casually greeted them. After the relationship between the two sides fell to the freezing point, this was the first time he had been called for a meeting. Black Star, what exactly do you know? Marbruce's expression was extremely solemn. He was not in the mood to talk and went straight to the point. An hour ago, the three of them were waiting for the dynasty's messenger to report on Black Star's attitude toward the three universal civilizations' peace agreement to see if they could stabilize the association. However, they did not expect to hear a piece of news that shocked them. Black Star actually revealed the secret of the wormhole directly. The three of them were all stunned. Where did Black Star find out that we had cracked the secret of the wormhole? Internal intelligence was leaked? Was there a mole? If not for this reason, how did Black Star find out? Could it be that he already knew the secret of this set of wormhole data? The amount of information contained within was too much. Bruce, Lewis, and the ethereal Pope were anxious. Black Star had specially sent someone to pass the message. No matter what the situation was, it meant that Black Star had unexpected information. This was an important matter, and they could not be careless. The three of them urgently discussed for a while, and decided to talk to Black Star. They sent out an invitation, which led to the current meeting. I know a lot. Han Shao glanced at the three of them and purposely revealed a meaningful expression. He secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He was not sure what was going on with the three universal civilizations, so he did not directly call out the name of the World Tree. Instead, he tentatively pointed out the information about the God wormhole. However, since he was called over for a meeting, Han Shao knew that he had made the right bet. He had guessed the truth and was secretly glad that he had not made a fool of himself. You mentioned the wormhole data in God's legacy. How much do you know about it? Lewis asked with a deep voice. Han Shao composed himself, glanced at him, and casually said, You guys found a civilization on the other side of the wormhole, right? The three of them looked at each other with solemn expressions. Bruce frowned. Where did you get your information from? I know what you want to ask. Han Shao raised his eyebrows. But I didn't steal your insider information. Hearing this, the three of them became even more solemn. Black Star indicated that the source of his information was not leaked by the three universal civilizations. In other words, he had long known the secret of the wormhole data and held unknown information in his hand. Bruce took a deep breath and let go of his reservations. He even lowered his voice and said solemnly, Mister, I believe you are well aware of the nature of this matter. We hope you will tell us the truth. This is very important to the entire universe. Sure. Han Shao nodded. Since it had already happened, there was no point in hiding it now. It was time to talk openly. He had to let the three universal civilizations know the danger of the World Tree in advance. This set of wormholes leads to a territory called the World Tree Civilization. It is an extremely powerful universal civilization that is fanatical about war and expansion. Decades ago, due to some reason, God sent a doppelganger to attack me. In the end, the doppelganger fell into a wormhole during the battle and coincidentally discovered the World Tree Civilization. After that, God sent someone to snatch this wormhole data and study how to find the coordinates of the World Tree Civilization. By chance, I became the only one who knew. Han Shao hid the memories of his previous life and explained the matter in a different way. He emphasized the strength of the World Tree Civilization and basically told them everything he knew about the World Tree Civilization. The three of them frowned and were filled with doubts. Bruce could not help but question, Did God tell you all this? Putting aside why God only revealed the information to you, why do you know so much about the World Tree Civilization? This doesn't seem like God has only been there once. I understand your doubts. Han Shao nodded. This matter was not child's play. If he pushed everything onto God, he would be able to expose the lie as long as he confronted God. If they did not have solid evidence, the three universal civilizations would not believe this information so easily. However, he had already thought of a reason, which would allow him to have a closed-loop explanation for his detailed understanding of the World Tree Civilization. Actually, I have a relic from a civilization that was destroyed by the World Tree Civilization. It contains a lot of relevant information. My understanding of the World Tree Civilization is basically from this. As he spoke, Han Shao raised his hand and summoned the 3D projection of SWI-001. He then displayed the information he had prepared long ago on the virtual screen. The expressions of the three of them changed, and they hurriedly browsed through it. The more they read, the more shocked they became. SWI-001's memory device recorded the tragic state of the Karma Republic, when it was invaded. It recorded the special war mode of the World Tree civilization, which was extremely powerful. It also showed that the World Tree civilization was a universal civilization that could not coexist. All of this proved that Han Shao was not lying. Without this treasure, even if Han Shao could explain the source of the information, it would not be convincing. This treasure really came at the right time, Han Shao sighed. There was nothing much to say, just one sentence. Phaidon was awesome. After a while, the three of them finished reading the information, and shock remained in their eyes. The World Tree civilization's method of devouring everything is the enemy of all intelligent civilizations. I didn't expect such a hunter to exist in the universe, Lewis muttered to himself. Marbruce felt a lingering fear and said in a low voice, "Luckily, we sealed Esgod in time. Luckily, we sealed Esgod early." If he attracted the World Tree civilization, then, halfway through his sentence, his expression suddenly froze. At this moment, Marbruce suddenly remembered that the operation to seal Esgod seemed to have been facilitated by Black Star. It was all thanks to Black Star that they were not discovered by the World Tree. Back then, Black Star was determined to seal Esgod no matter what. Could it be that he had already started his long-term plan at that time to secretly protect the explored universe from being invaded? Marbruce was shocked. He looked up at Han Shao and could not help but ask, "Was this the reason why you asked us to hunt Esgod back then? What else? Do you really think I have an irreconcilable hatred for him?" Han Shao clicked his tongue and asked casually. Marbruce's expression changed slightly, and he looked at Han Shao deeply. He could not help but feel admiration and gratitude, and the fear and suspicion in his heart were greatly diluted. If not for Black Star's efforts, the Galactic Society might have already been invaded. Strictly speaking, the entire universe owed Black Star a favor. However, Black Star had never revealed this matter and silently allowed this achievement to be buried in the dust of history. No one knew about his huge contribution, hiding his achievements and fame. In Marbruce's heart, Han Zhao's image immediately grew. Suddenly, the ethereal Pope said with a deep voice, "Black Star, you know the threat of the World Tree civilization. Since you already knew about this information, why didn't you say anything?" Han Shao shook his head. "I know you guys too well. If you knew that a powerful unknown civilization was occupying the unexplored universe, would you treat it as if it didn't exist? As long as you say it, it will cause the contact to be brought forward. It was the best choice to keep this secret by one person. If not for the results of your research on the wormhole data, I wouldn't have told you." The three of them were speechless. Indeed, it was fine if they did not know, but if they knew about the huge threat of the World Tree, the three of them knew very well that they would definitely not sit back and do nothing. They would definitely follow the principle of striking first to gain the upper hand, just like now. Detection was a two-way operation. Exploring the World Tree's information also had to bear the risk of being exposed. However, even so, from their standpoint, it was inevitable for them to make the first move. Otherwise, they would have to resign themselves to fate and wait for death. How could they allow others to sleep soundly in their beds? With such a powerful enemy occupying the unknown universe, they could not sleep or eat in peace, afraid that they would be discovered one day and be invaded. There was no way to guard against thieves for 1,000 days. Of course, taking the initiative to eliminate the hidden dangers was more in line with the needs of the three universal civilizations. This was like an interference effect. If both sides did not know of each other's existence, they would still be able to live in peace and be two parallel lines that did not intersect. However, once they discovered each other, they would quickly interact. "I admit that what you said makes sense," Lewis sighed. "But isn't this method also a form of wishful thinking? We're betting that the enemy won't discover us." Han Shao shook his head and did not say anything. The reason he was so confident was that he knew when the World Tree would invade. However, there was no need to explain such things now, nor was it easy to explain. Even if he said it, the other party would still be skeptical. At this moment the ethereal Pope frowned. However, how can we confirm that the information about this civilization relic is real and not fabricated? Are you suspecting me? Han Shao glanced at him. I'm just being cautious, not targeting you. The ethereal Pope waved his hand. Louis thought for a moment and agreed. Indeed, the source of the information you provided is very convincing, but the authenticity is still questionable. It's not that we're suspecting you, but we can't completely believe this information. Although it looks real, who knows if there's anything wrong with this civilization relic itself? We can't jump to conclusions. Black Star, we'll use the information you provided as reference. The specifics will still depend on the results of the actual exploration, Marbruce said. TSK, the three of you are so troublesome. Hearing this, Han Shao curled his lips, but he was not surprised. From the perspective of the three universal civilizations, it was only right to be cautious. After all, there was the possibility of fake information, just like what happened to the Kundi race back then. Who knew if this information was fabricated bait? Han Shao stroked his chin and slowly said, "This civilization relic still has signs of life, but it's in a deep sleep. If we wake it up, we should be able to get more information out of it." He still had a related mission on him, and he had not awakened SWI-001 because he did not want to cause any trouble. However, now that he had confirmed that the three universal civilizations had come into contact with the World Tree in advance, this concern was basically eliminated. Therefore, Han Shao did not mind awakening SWI-001 at this time. "Alright, I'll leave it to you then. This is very important. By the way, you'll help us, right?" Marbruce nodded. Suddenly, he paused as he realized that they were still in a state of confrontation with the association. The other two also realized this, and their expressions were a little uncomfortable. The situation had changed, and they needed the association's strength instead. Not long ago, they wanted to settle the score with the association, but now they were asking for their help. The three of them felt awkward and a little ashamed. However, the three of them were in high positions, so they only felt awkward for a few seconds. They quickly adjusted their mentality, and did not show anything on their faces, only staring at Han Shao with burning eyes. Han Shao glanced at the three of them and smiled. "The World Tree civilization can't coexist with us. We're in a cold relationship, and no one can be independent. Everyone has a common enemy, and cooperation is the only choice." "It's great that you can understand this." The three of them heaved a sigh of relief. Now they needed to unite all their strength. They were really afraid that the Beyond Grade A Association would do something stupid at a time like this. Seeing Black Star casually brush aside the conflict, the three of them could not help but recall the conflicts they had with the Beyond Grade A Association over the years, and their feelings were complicated. Looking at Black Star's actions since he came to power, he had always been trying to maintain a balance and hope to get along peacefully. He had never taken the initiative to start a conflict. In the past, the three of them thought that the association was stalling for time to accumulate strength, but now that they looked back, the three of them suddenly realized that there seemed to be another explanation for Black Star's actions. Was this not preserving their strength? Due to various reasons, they had been suppressing and ostracizing the association, but Black Star had been restraining himself, maintaining a fragile balance like walking on a tightrope. While they were still struggling with their internal conflicts, Black Star had most likely already set his eyes on the World Tree civilization and was preparing to fight against the external enemies. Unfortunately, the leak of the virtual mutiny virus made them decide to start a war, trying to start a full-scale war and settle the score. I almost couldn't turn back. The three of them were shocked, and a layer of cold sweat appeared on their backs. They were very glad. Fortunately, they had stopped at the critical moment. If they had really fought, It would have destroyed Black Star's good intentions and damaged the strength on their side. Thinking of this, the three of them looked at Han Xiao again with complicated gazes. There was guilt and apology, but also gratitude and admiration. I misunderstood him. After knowing the real motive, the three of them felt like they had gotten to know Han Xiao again. Black Star's image in their hearts suddenly became vivid. The three of them felt like they were seeing the back of someone walking alone, carrying a burden that no one knew about, trying to eliminate conflicts, but no one understood his true intentions. Black Star, your contribution to this universe is worthy of being called great. This thought flashed through Marbrus's mind, and he secretly praised and admired him. At the same time, he felt that it was a pity, and he had the same thought as Urinril. How great would it be if Black Star was a direct descendant of the dynasty? The prejudice of the past melted like snow. At this point, continuing to fight was a foolish thing to do. The three of them knew that Black Star had already shown his goodwill, and it was time for them to express their stance. The three of them looked at each other, understood what each other meant, and slowly nodded. Marbrus coughed, looked at Han Xiao seriously, and said solemnly, "I'm representing the global civilization. On behalf of the three universal civilizations, I officially invite you to be the Special Security Advisor again. Are you willing?" Chapter 1329. Looking at the solemn expressions of the three of them, Han Xiao shook his finger. "You're not willing?" Marbrus's eyes narrowed. "No, what I mean is, it's not enough." Han Xiao's expression was calm, but he curled his lips in his heart. "If we're talking about thick-skinned, you guys are the thick-skinned ones. Not long ago, you guys were still targeting the beyond grade but now, you guys changed your attitude just like that. Although your motive is right, isn't this kind of behavior treating us beyond grade as like chamber pots that can come and go as you please? Ever since the ban was issued, the association had suffered a lot of losses. Even though everyone was on the same side, the World Tree had not attacked yet. If the three universal civilizations wanted to get the association's help without offering substantial benefits, it would not be such a good thing. His identity was multifaceted, and it was his duty to fight for the interests of the association members. He could not accept the righteous kidnapping of the three universal civilizations. "Then, what are your conditions?" The three of them narrowed their eyes and leaned forward slightly. Personal opinions were personal, business was business. When it came to substantial benefits, even if the three of them admired Han Zhao's contributions, they would not allow him to ask for an exorbitant price. Perhaps, seeing that they were on the same side and that Black Star was actively sharing information about the World Tree, they could give in. However, if the conditions were too excessive, the three of them would not agree. Han Xiao nodded and said, "Working together is the trend, but I hope you can understand. After all, I'm the president of the association, and I have to give the members an explanation. The ban has caused quite a lot of losses to many beyond Grade A members. First of all, the ban needs to be lifted and the losses of the beyond Grade A members will be compensated. What do you think?" "Sure." The three of them nodded. This was in the plan. Han Xiao continued, "Secondly, the association needs to be compensated with additional resources such as lost time, mental damage, and so on. In the subsequent cooperation, the three universal civilizations also have to continue to provide resources. Although we have a common enemy, you guys are the rulers of the explored universe. We'll help you protect your territory. We can't work for free." "That's not a problem. The number can be negotiated." The three of them pondered for a moment, but did not object. Han Xiao paused for a moment before slowly saying, "Lastly, the three universal civilizations have to recognize the authority of the Beyond Grade A Association. It will no longer be a civilian organization but an official super-organization. They will recognize our independence and the sanctity of our territory. They will allow us to openly teach all super knowledge." They will be on equal footing with the advanced civilizations in terms of political status and enjoy the same right. This will be written into the universal law of the galaxy. In addition, the association will have a territory with a high degree of autonomy at the edge of the explored universe. Hearing this, the three secretly frowned. One of the important reasons they could openly suppress the Beyond Grade A Association was that the nature of the association was that it was a civilian organization and did not enjoy the rights of a series of galactic universal laws, such as the Peace Treaty. No civilian organization had ever enjoyed the same political treatment as the advanced civilizations, not even the powerful Beyond Grade A organizations. This request was unprecedented. This was not a verbal agreement, but a written law. The Beyond Grade A Association wanted to become a true super-authoritative alliance. Once they recognized it, the association's skyrocketing reputation would almost be able to monopolize the civilian super community. Furthermore, they would be protected by the universal law, so many suppression methods could not be used on the association, which was very troublesome. At the same time, the Beyond Grade A Association also requested an autonomous territory that was different from the territory of the Beyond Grade As. It was almost like establishing a country. Furthermore, it would be located at the edge of the explored universe, probably with the strategic intention of being able to advance and retreat in order to prevent a possible cleansing in the future. Han Shao waited for a moment. Seeing that the three of them were deep in thought, he clicked his tongue and added, "Don't misunderstand, I don't mean anything else. This is the association's request for its own safety. I believe the three universal civilizations should be willing to satisfy the association's wish to protect itself, right?" He almost said the unspoken words. "You guys have been hesitating for so long. Are you guys thinking about getting rid of the hound after the rabbit is dead?" The three of them looked at each other and quickly exchanged opinions in the private channel. Very soon, Marbruce knocked on the table and said, "If the World Tree's information is correct, we will agree to this condition. At the same time, if a war breaks out, the association will need to fully contribute. We will draft the detailed terms later." "That's good. When you fulfill your promise, we will have more foundation for cooperation." Han Shao nodded. He knew very well that this was a potential exchange of benefits and a game of risk. Even if they knew about the existence of external enemies, life had to continue. The three universal civilizations would definitely plan for the situation after defeating the external enemies. At that time, they would still have to solve the problem of the expansion of the number of Beyond Grade As. Agreeing to this request would increase the difficulty of the cleansing in the future. However, due to the pressure of the external enemies, the three universal civilizations had no choice but to stabilize the association and compromise to a certain extent. If they did not agree to this condition, their intentions would be too obvious. Even if they worked together with the association, there would be a lot of unstable factors. This request was equivalent to Black Star's scheme, making it difficult for them to reject it even if they knew the consequences. Most importantly, Black Star was an unexpected insider, which disrupted the pace of the three universal civilizations. Stabilizing Black Star himself was even more important than stabilizing the association. The three of them thought for a while and finally agreed. Other than compromising, they were also gambling on another possibility. Compared to an internal cleansing, letting the external enemies reduce the number of Beyond Grade As was a more suitable way. The Beyond Grade A Association suffered heavy casualties in the external war. This was the most ideal result, far better than internal strife. Not only did it temporarily alleviate the problem of the imbalance of individual strength, but it also made the deaths of these Beyond Grade As the most valuable. This way, the aftereffects of agreeing to Black Star's request would be greatly reduced. Before the next imbalance of individual strength occurred, they would have plenty of time to think of a solution. Han Shao also knew what the three universal civilizations meant. This was where the game was. Because the threat of the World Tree was too great, he did not plan to not put in any effort. Making the Beyond Grade A Association suffer heavy casualties was also his goal. The core reason was that there was no limit to the Sanctum revival. He claimed that he only had one chance, and only by exposing the truth would he be able to complete the deterrence of the three universal civilizations. If he wanted people to die, he would either have to fight a civil war or an external war. It was impossible for the Beyond Grade as to collectively commit suicide. In comparison, fighting an external war would naturally maximize the benefit. He would not waste the key, would not exhaust his internal strength, and would also show his fist. As long as they saw the effects of the Sanctum revival, the three universal civilizations would understand the importance of it without experiencing it personally. They would have a strong fear of taking action. Not only would he be able to fight against the World Tree, but he would also intimidate the three universal civilizations. At the same time, he planned to mix in some Sanctum key materials that were difficult to find into the list of compensation. With the wealth of the three universal civilizations, they would definitely be able to take them out. It was equivalent to using other people's materials to build his own weapon and then using it to threaten them. This was very impressive. It was already a foregone conclusion that the World Tree would come into contact with him in advance, so Han Shao adapted to the situation and flexibly adjusted his plan to maximize the benefits. The three leaders in front of him naturally did not know this, and they probably still thought that he was pursuing the guarantee of peace. Both sides had their own thoughts and reached a temporary consensus. Also, don't reveal anything about the World Tree civilization to the outside world for the time being. The fewer people who know, the better. Otherwise, it will cause chaos, Marbruce instructed. Of course. Han Shao nodded. In his previous life, the battle with the World Tree had been fought with the advanced civilizations, armed forces, and supers. The ordinary people were basically protected, and their use was limited. It was not yet at the level where everyone was a soldier, and even if they knew, it would only add to the trouble. As he spoke, Han Shao paused and said, "By the way, since you've invited me to be the special security consultant, I have to check on this matter. I need to share your exploration report on the World Tree civilization." "No problem." Marbruce agreed very readily this time. After all, he did not have as much information as Black Star, and this was one of the help they needed. Han Shao quickly received the research report on the wormhole data from the Dynasty's Academy of Sciences and immediately began reading it. He had returned to being the special security consultant to supervise the progress of the three universal civilizations' exploration and obtain first-hand information. Currently, he was the only outsider who had the right to interfere with the three universal civilizations' exploration of the World Tree. After quickly browsing through it, Han Zhao's gaze locked onto the first report. Next to the conclusion of confirmed existence of an unknown universal civilization, there was a doubtful comment from the audit department. He then looked back at the data and realized that it did not seem like he could directly come to this conclusion. What's wrong with the researcher who wrote this conclusion? This data can't prove that the other party is a universal civilization. Although he guessed correctly, it's too arbitrary. Han Shao raised his brows. That's why we suspended him. It's too careless. Marbruce nodded. Han Shao had a guess. Did this guy do it on purpose? Even a minor character can change the era. He sighed softly and lamented in his heart. After sorting out his emotions, Han Shao pretended to be joking and said, "No matter what, he has made a contribution by chance. We can't let him down." Marbruce glanced at him and did not say anything. Seeing this, Han Shao smiled, changed the topic, and got down to business. "Based on the current progress, I have a few suggestions." This meeting lasted for a few hours. After the two sides reached a consensus to keep in touch frequently, Han Shao deactivated the remote projection and returned to his office. Han Shao exhaled, rubbed his cheeks, and muttered, "Luckily, the three universal civilizations have avoided the crisis. Luckily, we managed to avoid a civil war. The three universal civilizations have finally stopped targeting us." He knew that the three universal civilizations would not completely let go of their hostility, but at their level, there was basically no one who would not turn back until they hit a wall. They all knew their priorities. As long as everyone came to an agreement, they could stop fighting and make peace today. The relationship between them was not important at all. It only depended on whether there was a need, and external enemies had always been a factor in shifting internal conflicts. The two sides had not turned enemies into friends. At most, they had become temporary partners, working together to solve their common main conflict. In fact, the biggest obstacle for the three universal civilizations to make peace with the association was Han Shao, the president with real power. Now that he had agreed to cooperate, most of the resistance had disappeared. It could be said that he had single-handedly pushed for the alliance between the two sides. From today onwards, the situation has entered a new stage of being united against the outside world. The enemy is in the light and we are in the dark. We have to start preparing for the World Tree civilization. Han Shao pulled himself together and felt a chill in his heart. This hidden danger had troubled him for nearly 100 years. Now, it was as if a huge stone had been lifted from his heart. It was finally time to face it. End of chapter. Chapter 1330. One day later, in the Black Star Core territory, Mechanical Life Civilization, Planet Apostle Han Shao and Aurora walked into the Galactic Research Institute, stopped in front of SW001, and looked up at this enormous mechanical body. "Are you sure you want to wake this big guy up today?" Aurora turned around and looked at Han Shao. Han Shao nodded. "Why did you suddenly change your mind?" Aurora asked curiously. "I've already finished studying it. There's nothing else of value left on it. It's time to wake it up and see if we can communicate with it." Han Shao casually found an excuse. "All right, as long as you're happy." Aurora rubbed her hands and said eagerly, "Shall I start now?" Han Shao nodded and snapped his fingers. Mechanical force flowed out, and mechanical soldiers appeared one after another with their weapons raised. At the same time, the various devices that imprisoned SWY001 also started operating at full power. Seeing this, Aurora flipped her palm, and life force flowed into SW001. In her senses, SW001's almost dormant life force started to increase rapidly. Although Han Shao did not have the ability to sense life force, he could still feel a powerful energy wave slowly waking up. In his vision, SWY001's cells started to generate mechanical force, and the many mechanical modules that were almost paralyzed in its body started to operate. The broken mechanical body started to recover at a speed visible to the naked eye. The mechanical devices that Han Shao used to imprison it started to show signs of disintegration, as if they were going to be decomposed into raw materials for SWY001 to repair its mechanical structure. Click, click, click. A series of mechanical sounds came from SWY001's body. Its core reactor was activated, and its vocal cords also vibrated, letting out a heavy and strange groan like the groan of a beast that had just woken up from its slumber. Aurora cautiously took a few steps back. Han Shao took a few steps forward and stood in front of her. He stared at the changes in SWY001's parameters as it woke up. All of a sudden, an intense mechanical force exploded on his mechanical body and flowed through his entire body. SWY001's eyelids trembled, and he slowly opened his eyes. There was no light in his eyes, as if he had slept for too long and was trying to recall his identity. After being stiff for a long time, SWY001 seemed to have readjusted its consciousness and started moving its body. SWY-001 scanned its surroundings in a daze. Then, it lowered its head and looked at Han Xiao, who was also emitting great power. It opened its mouth and let out a deafening sound wave with many strange syllables as if it was talking. What is he saying? Aurora didn't understand. She poked Han Xiao's back. That is the common language of his civilization. He is questioning who we are and where we are. Han Xiao explained casually without even turning his head. He had obtained a lot of information from SWY-001's memory file, including the various languages of the Karma Republic. Han Xiao was relieved. Luckily, SWY-001's consciousness had not dissipated. Otherwise, he would have only obtained a shell, and the wake-up service would not have been able to continue. He might have had to go to the sanctum to get him out. Just as he was about to speak to SWY-001, something happened. Boom! A powerful mechanical force exploded, and the confinement device instantly disintegrated and was devoured by SWY-001. Then, he twisted his body, and his enormous mechanical body crashed through the wall of the research institute like a giant beast, retreating far away. At the same time, the broken parts quickly turned into various weapon modules and attached themselves to the surface of his body. He then fired at Han Xiao. Beams of light shot toward him. Han Xiao did not move, and the mechanical army around him summoned shields to block the attacks. Ah, he's running away. It's normal for him to have a reaction when he just woke up. Plus, he can't run away. Han Xiao said casually. SWY-001's last memory was of him being defeated by the World Tree civilization. He probably still did not understand the situation and thought that he had been captured by the World Tree civilization. Having expected this possibility, Han Xiao had removed the extra weapon modules of SWY-001 long ago. At the same time, he gathered the troops of the Mechanical Life civilization and arranged a large number of troops around him. The two of them flew into the universe through the hole that SWY-001 had made. They immediately saw the endless mechanical army surrounding this place. SWY-001 was surrounded in the middle and was about to break out. At this time, dozens of apostle weapons suddenly charged out from the army. Han Xiao's mechanical force landed on them from a distance. These apostle weapons engaged SWY-001 and quickly gained the upper hand. After the battle with the three universal civilizations, Han Xiao had the Dimension Factory repair the damaged soldiers day and night. The paralyzed apostle weapons were given priority to repair. Now the apostle weapons had basically recovered. Han Xiao's muscles bulged and blood gushed out, weaving into strips of flesh. The mechanical soldiers beside him swarmed over, and the advanced mechanical deity immediately appeared. He did not hold back. He charged forward, pressed down on SWY-001, and gave it a good beating. It was like two mechanical beasts fighting in space. Han Xiao had the upper hand in all aspects, while SWY-001's modules were in pieces. It was far from its peak state, so it was completely suppressed and could not fight back at all. Compared to the strength he had when he fought the three Universal Civilizations direct members not long ago, Han Xiao had already completed the challenge mission and received 520 billion experience, 8 character summon cards, and 6 new abilities. 2 of them were ordinary talents, 2 were advanced talents, 1 was a rare ability, and 1 was a molding talent. The molding talent came from Wernos and was called God's Enhancement. Its effect was to increase the strength of one's abilities to a certain extent, as well as greatly strengthen the bonuses of the various levels of God's trait transformation. At the same time, it also increased the bonuses of Faith-type talent. Key of Adeptus Mechanicus was suitable for this. These missions also gave him 3 Universe Legendary points, which were number 1 beyond Grade A, creator of the greatest battle record in history, and a source of fear of the 3 Universal Civilizations. Furthermore, after forcing the 3 Universal Civilizations troops to retreat and completing the mission requested by Manison, he obtained one of his abilities. Fu Ding's luck seemed to have been concentrated on this. He also obtained one of Manison's unique talents, which was called Mechanical Force Ultimate, Manison. His mechanical force was strengthened, greatly increasing his machinery affinity and mechanical force strength, as well as the attributes of his mechanical force and the upper limit of his energy. Although the unique talents were great, he had already collected 3 of Manison's unique talents, and he felt like he was becoming more and more like the Mecha Empire. These abilities increased his energy rank by a total of 2,740 ona. To be able to increase his energy rank by such a considerable amount at his current level, the bonus to his combat strength was obvious. Compared to when they were facing each other, he was more than just a little stronger. The 3 Universal Civilizations' continuous battles had become nutrients for his growth. When Han Shao was at his peak, there was no suspense in the battle between him and the crippled SW-001. The best way to convince someone was always with his fists. After a round of persuasion, SWY-001 was finally forced to calm down. While subduing SWY-001, Han Shao sent a private message to explain the current situation. Stop resisting. This isn't the World Tree Civilization. We're another advanced civilization. You fell into our territory through a wormhole, and I picked you up. After explaining it over and over again, coupled with the deterrence of his fists, SW-001 finally stopped struggling and began communicating with him skeptically. In the quantum network, the data exchange between the two was completed in the blink of an eye. SW-001 knew that Han Shao had checked his memory device and also saw some information about the Galactic Society, so he basically believed what Han Shao said. However, he immediately became anxious. I can't stay here. My civilization is still waiting for me. His voice was like the voices of countless people stacked together, giving off an inexplicable sense of emptiness. His memory was still stuck at the time when he was defeated and unconscious. He did not see the moment when the Karma Republic was completely destroyed. Han Shao shook his head. I've checked your age. You've been drifting in the universe for a very long time. According to our time calculation, that was more than 600 years ago. I'm afraid your civilization has already been destroyed. SW-001 froze, as if he had fallen into a daze. Protecting his civilization with his life was the most important logic he had written when he was born. It was also the meaning of his existence in this form. I need confirmation, SWY-001 replied with a buzzing sound. If you're willing to provide the coordinates of the universe, we can help you explore it. However, we also need your help. It's an equivalent exchange. Help? We're also experiencing the same threat. You're the only survivor we know of, so we need your help. Your civilization has been destroyed. If you want revenge, you can't do it alone. We can work together, Han Shao explained it to him. If it's true, I'll agree. SWY-001 analyzed for a while and finally nodded. After all, he could not beat the other party, so he did not have much choice. Furthermore, in the underlying logic, there was a revenge rule to begin with. If his civilization was destroyed, he had to find a way to take revenge on the World Tree while protecting himself. If his civilization was really destroyed, he had nowhere to go. Working with the civilizations here to fight against the World Tree was also in line with his goal. Then, I'll organize a meeting between you and the ruler of this territory. I need you to convince them of some things and help them recognize the danger of the World Tree civilization. As he spoke, Han Shao paused for a moment before continuing. I've given you a number, but you probably won't like it. You're a collective consciousness. How do you want me to call you? Just call me Herberlin. That's the name of my beyond grade, a main body. The communication between the two of them was extremely fast and efficient. Herberlin did not resist and allowed the Apostle weapons to take him away. There was still a lot of information about the Galactic Society that he needed to understand, but he would not be allowed to freely access the Internet. Han Shao had already used the virtual technology as a precaution and blocked the Internet function. Seeing this, Han Shao deactivated the mechanical deity state and relaxed his body. It went smoother than I thought. It's probably because of my fist. As long as he could not control the other party, Herberlin would definitely run away and search for the answer on his own. If it were anyone else, it would not have been so easy to deal with. However, with powerful combat strength, this problem was easily solved. His methods were simple and crude but effective. If he could not win against the other party would not be so easily convinced. Han Shao opened the interface and took a look. The mission of Visitor from Afar was completed. The evaluation was based on the degree of repair of the body, which had reached a very high level. Although he had dismantled a lot of mechanical structures, Aurora's healing effect was amazing, which raised the evaluation. The reward of this mission itself was not high. The most useful thing was a Herberlin character summon card. The unknown impact of awakening Herberlin on the situation was the mission note. Just as Han Shao was calculating the reward, Aurora slowly flew to his side with a curious expression. She did not know the content of the conversation between Han Shao and Herberlin, nor did she know the other party's background. "What did you say to him just now? What's up with this big guy? He comes from a lost civilization, a wanderer who lost his home. The details are a secret for now. I have other arrangements for him. Tisk, forget it if you don't want to say it." Aurora could tell that Han Shao did not want her to delve into it. She could not help but pout and snort. After a pause, Aurora said, "Oh, right. What about the underworld hero spirits that I revived? They're still on standby. Do you want me to remove their physical bodies?" "There's no need to remove them. Keep them as a secret mobile force. They'll come in handy one day." "Is it to guard against the 3 universal civilizations?" Aurora probed. The outside world did not know what was going on between the Association and the 3 universal civilizations. "That's a factor, but it's not the main point." Han Shao shook his head. "I've already talked to the leaders of the 3 universal civilizations. If nothing goes wrong, the 2 sides should temporarily stop and make peace." Aurora was surprised. "What agreement did you guys come to?" "The 3 universal civilizations are actually willing to give in. The reason is a secret for now, so I can't tell you yet. However, I'll hold a regular meeting to explain the specific terms. You'll know then." More than half a month passed quickly. Under the high attention of the Galactic Society, the 3 universal civilizations and the Beyond Grade A Association seemed to have really stopped fighting. The 2 sides minded their own business. Just as all kinds of speculations were getting more and more rampant, the 3 universal civilizations, who had been pretending to be mute for more than half a month, finally released a joint statement, causing an earthquake in the entire Galactic Society. The 3 universal civilizations claimed that when the situation was about to go out of control, they took the initiative to give in. On one hand, they considered the safety of the Galactic Society. After much consideration, they finally chose to keep the peace and prevent the Galactic Society from falling into the flames of war. On the other hand, they said that they had reached a consensus with the Association and had a reasonable way to deal with the virus technology. As for what it was, they did not give any details. The Beyond Grade A Association also gave them face and did not expose the 3 universal civilization statement, saying that this was how it was and that there was no conspiracy theory. At least on the surface, the reason for the 3 universal civilizations' large-scale military operation this time was the virtual mutiny virus technology. As long as this problem was solved, it would make sense for them to retreat. Even if their words were ambiguous, they could use confidentiality as a reason, and the galactic residents could not do anything about it. However, what caused an uproar among the galactic residents was the second half of the three universal civilizations statement. They said that they would temporarily suspend the ban on the association and cancel the previous sanctions. The various organizations were shocked. They were clearly in a Cold War mode not long ago, and now they want to reconcile? What's going on? Did the three universal civilizations give up on solving the problem of individual strength imbalance? What kind of agreement did the two sides reach? Or were the three universal civilizations so afraid that they did not dare to make a move? Many people subconsciously thought of the scene of Black Star suppressing all the powerhouses of the three universal civilizations during the confrontation. Although they knew that the three universal civilizations would not stop because of Black Star's individual strength, they could not help but think in this direction. Could it be that the three universal civilizations were really afraid? Seeing the three universal civilizations and the Beyond Grade A Association quickly go from fighting each other to being at peace, the countless bystanders had mixed feelings. They felt a little dejected, as if their voices did not matter at all. The ruler and the strong changed the era. Regardless of whether it was good or bad, they could only accept it. However, although both sides expressed that they would stop fighting, the three universal civilizations were still aggressive at the beginning. This result undoubtedly made people feel that the Beyond Grade A Association had won this battle for a while. This was one of the few cases where a civilian organization forced the three universal civilizations to give in. The reputation of the Beyond Grade A Association, which had been suppressed, suddenly bounced back. All of a sudden, it was as if they had become the brightest kid in the galactic society. Although the voices of cursing the supers did not disappear completely, they were drowned out by the sea of rainbow farts. Many people were slapped in the face by this result and did not dare to go against the current mainstream opinion. They all quietened down and quietly went into hiding. On the other side, the most dumbfounded was still the Supercluster Alliance. They made up just like that? They're not going to break up anymore? If you don't fight, how are we going to get close to the association? Are we, the third party, going to be abandoned again? The taste of being a spare tire is so bitter. Chapter 1331. Beyond Grade A Association Headquarters, Planet Finn. Today was the first regular meeting after the three universal civilizations gave in. All the Beyond Grade A members were present early. No one was not curious about what agreement Black Star had reached with the three universal civilizations and were waiting for the president to give them an explanation. This is really sudden. Black Star completed the peace talks with the three universal civilizations without a word. I didn't receive any news at all, Kasui complained. I wonder what agreement the president reached with the three universal civilizations in private? With Black Star's personality, we shouldn't be the ones at a disadvantage, Kant said with an uncertain tone. Of course, no one present believed the announcement made by the three universal civilizations. They all knew that Black Star must have done some insider trading in private, but no one had found out what was going on. By the way, Ames, you're so close to Black Star. Did he tell you anything? Cisco turned and asked. He didn't tell me. Ames turned to Hella and said with a smile, but Hella might know. I'm not sure. I haven't seen him recently. Hella pursed her lips and shook her head. Everyone whispered to each other for a while, and Han Zhao's remote projection finally landed on the main seat. He looked around and smiled. Since everyone is here, let's get straight to the point. The main reason I gathered everyone here today is to tell you the agreement I reached with the three universal civilizations, as well as the next step of the association. Han Zhao glanced around. Seeing that everyone was listening to him attentively, he continued. The three universal civilizations agreed to a few of my conditions. They've decided to lift the blockade and make up for our losses during this period. They'll also give us additional compensation. In addition, they'll recognize the official status of the Beyond Grade A Association and enjoy the same rights as the advanced civilizations. This will be written into the galactic law. At the same time, we'll get a highly autonomous territory at the edge of the explored universe. That's about it. As soon as he finished, the entire place was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. The Beyond Grade A members present were shocked and looked at Han Xiao in disbelief. It was not that this agreement was bad, but that it was too good. They did not expect that Black Star would be able to obtain such ridiculous benefits that even the 3 universal civilizations were willing to accept. A normal truce was still within the range of understanding, but the 3 universal civilizations were not giving in at all but surrendering. Only when someone had their reproductive organs pinched by someone else would they compromise to this extent. Originally, everyone thought that it would be good enough if the 3 universal civilizations were willing to give them some compensation, but they did not expect such a surprise. With this, the problems that had been troubling the association were mostly solved, and they had much less to worry about. How did you do it? Kasui couldn't help but ask. Han Xiao vaguely glanced at the Beyond Grade as of the supercluster and said, I know that everyone is curious about the reason why the 3 universal civilizations gave in, but this matter is rather complicated, and we don't have a definite answer yet. Furthermore, these benefits are not given for free. It's part of the deal, and the price is that we have to help the 3 universal civilizations at certain times. Hearing this, everyone looked at each other. Seeing this, Han Xiao spread his hands. If you have any opinions, you can raise them. The foundation of our association's existence is to respect the attitude of all members. If you feel that it's not suitable, we can discuss it again. Biger immediately coughed and said, I think it's not bad. After all, we revivers have already died once. We can't enjoy the Sanctum revival, so we don't have to take the risk of fighting. Of course, it's a good thing. Hearing this, many of the revivers nodded. Oathkeeper's lies were deeply rooted in their hearts. In their opinion, if they died again, they could only go to the underworld and live a lowly life. I thought I could start a massacre and teach the 3 universal civilizations an unforgettable lesson to repay them for what they did to me back then. I didn't expect that after a few hundred years, the 3 universal civilizations would become a bunch of cowards. Black Star, you too, what's there to negotiate? The 3 universal civilizations chose to give in, so they must be in trouble. We should beat them when they're down. You didn't even seize such a good opportunity. I thought you were a ruthless person, but I was wrong about you. Han Xiao raised his brows and let out a nasal sound. Dylan snorted, his tone not showing any weakness. I didn't expect you to not be the kind of guy I thought you were, but a wise man full of righteousness, foresight, and rationality. You deserve to be our leader. Han Xiao nodded in satisfaction, and his nasal voice deepened. Everyone immediately looked away in disdain, ignoring Dylan's voice. Kasui came out to smooth things over and said with a smile, These conditions are all surprises, so no one has any objections. However, Black Star, the 3 universal civilizations have only expressed their willingness to stop and make peace. They haven't acknowledged our independence yet. Are you sure they will fulfill the agreement? I still don't think they will compromise so easily. There's basically no problem, but we'll have to wait for a while. Han Xiao shook his head. He had already asked Herberlin to talk to the leaders of the 3 universal civilizations to increase his persuasiveness. When the 3 universal civilizations had some results in their actual exploration, it was time to fulfill the agreement. Furthermore, this matter had caused an uproar and was currently in the limelight. The 3 universal civilizations planned to deal with it coldly for a period of time and only announce this matter after the heat of public opinion had passed. I hope so. Kasui nodded and asked curiously, Then what's the next development path of the association? Do you have any ideas? Han Xiao shook his head. Everyone, recover your strength first and continue to accumulate forces. As for the future, we'll talk about it after the 3 universal civilizations fulfill the agreement. He remembered another idea he had in the past. When their political status was recognized and the autonomous territory was in their hands, the association's reputation among the supers would rise to a new level. Perhaps they could create a country that belonged solely to the supers and absorb the free supers of the entire universe. The current association would then become the ruling parliament of the country. On one hand, it was to consider their future development. They had to expand the size of the organization and recruit more people. As the seedlings of the beyond grade, the more supers there were, the better. On the other hand, it was to ensure their independence. Ordinary supers would have many worries living under the jurisdiction of the 3 universal civilizations. If they had a new place to go, they would have a choice, and there would always be people who were willing to become residents here. Furthermore, the conflict between the ordinary people and the supers was getting more and more intense. Everyone did not see eye to eye with each other. Perhaps it was not bad to give the supers a chance to live separately. It might be good for everyone. Of course, the 3 universal civilizations would definitely not be happy to see this. Before the threat of the World Tree erupted, Han Xiao would not consider taking action. As long as it's a super, no race will reject them. Why does this behavior seem a little familiar? Han Xiao scratched his head. If he remembered correctly, this idea was a little like the character in a comic that was still serialized in his previous life. It should be the auntie who built the world of nations. Then what am I, the big boss? Han Xiao threw these random thoughts out of his mind and continued to discuss business with everyone. After talking for more than an hour, the meeting finally ended. Everyone left with excitement and relaxation. Han Xiao deactivated the remote projection. Just as he returned to his office, Philip appeared. Master Hum, you have a high-level encrypted message. It's from the Supercluster Alliance, Hum. Oh, looks like they can't hold it in anymore. Han Xiao opened the message and took a look. It was a message from the Supercluster Alliance inviting him to a meeting. He was not surprised. The association had originally cooperated with the Supercluster Alliance to fight against the 3 universal civilizations. Now that the 3 universal civilizations and the association had stopped fighting each other, the Supercluster Alliance, as the third party, was in a difficult position. Furthermore, the Supercluster Beyond Grade, who had participated in the meeting earlier, must have sent the agreement back. The Supercluster Alliance was definitely anxious, afraid that the association and the 3 universal civilizations would work together again. Thus, they hurriedly came to test his attitude. 10 minutes later, in the meeting room of the Supercluster Alliance, the various leaders gathered and sat upright. Han Zhao's remote projection appeared in the room, and he immediately felt everyone's gazes. The Star Arc Civilization's leader said with a deep voice, "Black Star, we agreed to work together to fight against the 3 universal civilizations. What's going on now?" Han Xiao shrugged. "The goal of the struggle is peace. The association has already achieved its goal, so there's no need to continue fighting against the 3 universal civilizations. This is good for the association." "What about our alliance?" Han Xiao calmly said. "Our previous alliance had a total of 4 conditions. Other than the first condition, which is to fight against the 3 universal civilizations, the other 3 are two-way resource sharing and cooperation. We can continue to cooperate in the future." The Star Arc Civilization's leader could not help but ask, "Then, what if the 3 universal civilizations have something to say? Will you break the alliance because of this?" Since the 3 universal civilizations have admitted that the association can keep the virtual virus technology, they've admitted that no one has the right to interfere with the association's internal affairs. Which galactic law did I violate by forming an alliance with you? So what if they have something to say? Han Xiao shrugged. Maybe we can change the first agreement and change the condition of joining forces against the three universal civilizations to that the association cannot take the initiative to attack the supercluster civilizations other than counterattacking. At the same time, the Sanctum revival quota I promised you will still be effective. Hearing this, everyone was a little surprised. They were prepared for Black Star to turn against them, but from the looks of it, Black Star seemed to be very easy to talk to. Han Xiao smiled and said, "To put it bluntly, we don't trust the three universal civilizations, so we need to leave a way out. Therefore, we're willing to maintain a good relationship with the Supercluster Alliance. When the association was blocked, it was you guys who lent a helping hand. Personally, I'm also willing to continue cooperating, so I still have this bit of credibility." I see, the Star Arc civilization's leader was relieved. Although it made it seem like an affair, this result was barely acceptable. The main thing was that Black Star did not intend to go back on his Sanctum revival quota, so this was quite good. So what if we're two-timing? At least we still have the right to be stepped on. As long as it's comfortable, we can even accept a spare tire. After the parties involved expressed their opinions one after another, even if all kinds of conspiracy theories ran rampant, the situation quickly calmed down, and the galactic residents and the various large organizations slowly returned to their normal lives. The blockade was lifted, and the various channels of the association were reopened one after another, gradually returning to normal business. However, the plan to integrate the black market did not stop, and it was still carried out by the players. Something big happened every day, and the lives of ordinary people had to continue. The dispute between the three universal civilizations and the association also gradually became the topic of conversation after meals, no longer being talked about every day. However, under the surface of peace, undercurrents were surging. The three universal civilizations were secretly preparing for war and investigating. This set of wormhole data left behind by ESGod was named World Tree Passage. With Han Zhao's reminder, the three universal civilizations were very careful in their exploration. So far, they had not encountered any life from the World Tree civilization. At the same time, the three universal civilizations listened to Han Zhao's suggestion and organized a joint expedition army, intending to enter the depths of the secondary dimensions to search for the so-called World Tree's main body. Secondary Dimension World, Dynasty Outpost. A huge expedition fleet was gathered here, undergoing the last inspection before departure. The dock was filled with soldiers of the three universal civilizations with serious expressions. Han Xiao stood on the dock and watched this scene. Harrison stood to the side with his backpack on his back, at a loss as to what to do. He said weakly, "Your Excellency Black Star, what is this fleet looking for? Why do I have to participate? To find something related to the fate of the explored universe." Han Xiao patted his shoulder. "Do I have to go?" Harrison was about to cry. He was still young and was not the old explorer from his previous life. Furthermore, the World Tree War had not broken out yet, so he could not ignore life and death. An expedition to the depths of the secondary dimensions was not an easy mission. Along the way, they would have to pass through countless strange secondary dimensions. Who knew what kind of situation they would encounter? If they did not deal with it properly, they would suffer heavy losses. Furthermore, communication was not convenient. They would be like a lone army that could not communicate with the rear. What are you afraid of? Didn't I leave you a lot of equipment? If you encounter danger, they will be enough to protect you. If not, didn't you bring a set of Lord's avatar and a throne? I can teleport over at any time. Han Xiao patted his head. I'm afraid that I won't be able to call you in time before I die. Harrison looked dejected. Furthermore, there are so many people participating. There's no point in adding me, right? Han Xiao was helpless and could not answer. In his previous life, Harrison had discovered the main body of the World Tree, but this time, who knew if the goddess of luck would favor him? Furthermore, the main body of the World Tree was not without protection. The surrounding secondary dimensions were filled with countless spawn races, which were extremely dangerous. When the fleet discovered the other party, the World Tree also discovered them. However, if they could not find the main body of the World Tree, their chances of winning were slim. Sending the expedition team in advance was already a step ahead. Han Shao was currently the only outsider cooperating with the three universal civilizations to explore the World Tree. Other than Harrison, he had also chosen some trustworthy people to participate in the first batch of Secondary Dimensions expedition team. Most of them were mechanical lives, with some Black Spirit race members mixed in. After comforting Harrison for a while, the expedition fleet was finally ready. Harrison looked back 3 times with every step, but in the end, he still stepped onto the spaceship bravely. With the roar of the Secondary Dimensions dedicated engine, the joint expedition fleet slowly took off, turning into a flash of light and disappearing from everyone's sight, heading toward the unknown future. Chapter 1332. After sending off the expedition team, Han Shao stood at the dock for a while. This time, Gyuzer, who was wearing a tall emperor's suit, walked over from behind and stood side by side. Gyuzer, who had a long beard and looked like Zhang Fei, took out a thick red cigarette from his shirt pocket. He rubbed it with his finger and lit the cigarette. He took a deep breath and exhaled a puff of green smoke. He smacked his lips and said, "That's right." He smacked his lips and said, "This is only the first batch. There will be a second and third expedition team in the future. The depths of the secondary dimensions are unpredictable. I hope the main body of the World Tree you mentioned really exists. Don't let the sacrifices die for nothing. Don't be too pessimistic. Maybe it'll be more dangerous than dangerous," Han Shao replied casually. Gyuzer did not comment. He took out another cigarette from his pocket and handed it to Han Shao. "It's a premium product specially provided by the dynasty's upper echelons. You can't buy it on the market. Try it?" "I don't smoke anymore." Han Shao waved his hand and rejected. "Is that so?" Gyuzer put away the cigarette, shook his head, and said, "Speaking of which, I've never heard of you having any hobbies. Don't you mechanics have any entertainment needs? Smoking and drinking are not as fun as robots." Han Shao glanced at him. "Just say what you want. Can't I talk to you if I don't have anything?" Gyuzer shrugged. Although Black Star had beaten them up not long ago, both sides had made peace. Fighting before the battle was official business, and there was no grudge between them. Most beyond grade as admired the strong, and the direct descendants of the three universal civilizations were no exception. They all had a certain level of respect for Black Star's achievements and abilities. "Next time. I'm quite busy." Han Shao patted Gyuzer's shoulder. Gyuzer sighed and said, "All right, I'm here to tell you that His Excellency the Ruler is waiting for you online. He wants to talk to you about something." "Why didn't you say so earlier?" Han Shao turned around and walked into the dynasty's outpost base. He went to the private communication room and answered Marbruce's call. "Ruler Marbruce, what's the matter? Our exploration has made some progress. The probes have collected the exact coordinates, and the multidimensional sky opening transportation device can already reach the territory of the World Tree civilization. However, we have no intention of sending troops for the time being." Han Shao nodded. The Radiant Federation's multidimensional sky opening transportation device had extremely high strategic value and was very useful. It was necessary to use it here. Unfortunately, the three universal civilizations only allowed him to interfere in limited areas. Most of them only treated him as a consultant and did not allow him to use the World Tree channel to send anything. "What can I do for you?" We plan to bury some detection equipment and strategic killing weapons in the uninhabited areas. For this, we need more information, such as the star map of the other side and the division of forces. It's inefficient for us to slowly detect these things, and as the detection range expands, the risk of encountering the World Tree civilization will increase. So? Han Shao raised his eyebrows. Bruce pondered and said, "We plan to try to connect to the other party's network after the preparations are done and steal some superficial information, so we're here to ask for your opinion." Han Shao thought for a while and said, "If it's just superficial information, as long as we enter from an unimportant terminal node, do a good job of disguising the data and erasing the traces, and let the beyond grade as analyze the other party's network coding language first, the risk will be controlled." This was not invading the other party's network, but browsing the network information with an alias, so the difficulty was not high. The World Tree civilization also had a communication system in the form of a quantum network, which was basically the standard of advanced civilizations. However, the cornerstone of the communication method was not the quantum network but a mental network called the treetop connection that the World Tree came with. However, the latter was too transparent and monotonous, not as diverse as the quantum network. Then let the beyond grade A mechanic take the lead and supplement the computing power of the main artificial intelligence to collect the superficial information of the other party's network. When the time comes, the information obtained will be shared with you. After chatting for a while, Bruce hung up the communication, mainly to inform Han Shao of the exploration plan. Han Shao put down the communicator and curled his lip. Other than the secondary dimension expeditionary army, they won't let me interfere in any other exploration work. It seems like they are still on guard. The current situation was far from the stage of unity in his previous life. Although it was not to the extent of scheming against each other, they could not completely trust each other like in his previous life and cooperate without any worries. After leaving the Dynasty outpost and returning to the army base, Han Shao summoned Philip and issued a special summoning order to the hundreds of beyond grade A seeds in the army. Because the three universal civilizations strictly controlled the World Tree channel, he could not make many preparations at the moment. Other than increasing the Void God's trait transformation and making the production line explode all day long, he could only wait for the players to become rich and slowly provide him with EXP. Therefore, he planned to use the advantage of the interface to give the hundreds of beyond grade A seeds who had transferred to the army a year ago a long-term special training, hoping that a new beyond grade A would be born from this group of people and strengthen the high-end strength of the association. After sending the message, Han Shao left the room and walked around the base for a while before suddenly bumping into Jenny. Han Shao could not help but stop and ask in confusion, "Ames has already returned to Floating Dragon Island. Why are you still here?" Jenny crossed her arms and snorted. "It wasn't easy for me to get a holiday because of the refuge. I don't want to go back so quickly to work overtime. Let Ames take care of things herself. I happen to have some free time." Han Shao understood. "So you've rested well. No wonder your hairline has recovered a little. I almost didn't recognize you." "You don't have to say it if you don't know how to speak. No one will treat you as a mute." Jenny rolled her eyes. "Then rest well at my place. However, if Ames comes to ask me for someone, don't expect me to help you." Han Shao shook his head, smiled, and walked past him. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly heard Jenny behind him speak again. This time, her tone was a little hesitant. I haven't seen Harrison in a while. I sent him a message, but he didn't reply. Where did he go?" Han Shao turned around and looked at her, a little surprised. "The two of you really hooked up? I thought you rejected him. Looks like you're the same as Ames, the honest type." *T. Jenny was furious. "There's nothing between me and that annoying guy. I was just curious." Han Shao did not believe her at all. He casually said, He went on a secret mission. You probably won't see him for a long time. Secret mission? Jenny hesitated for a moment. Is it dangerous? Of course, Han Xiao replied rather straightforwardly. Jenny choked. After hesitating for 2 seconds, she softly said, "Then help me tell him." Tell him what? Han Xiao immediately became alert. Stupid sister, be careful. Don't raise a flag so casually and lower Harrison's survival rate. Jenny gritted her teeth, turned her head, and stubbornly said, "Ask him when he's going to pay me back the money he owes me." "TSK, you don't mean what you say." Han Xiao mercilessly exposed Jenny. "Forget it if you don't want to help me ask." Jenny flew into a rage out of humiliation. "I'll ask him, but I might not be able to contact him now. Let's talk about it another time." Han Xiao waved his hands, turned around, and left. When he turned the corner, he turned his head to take a look and saw that Jenny was still standing in the same place with a disappointed expression on her face. "TSK, and you say there's nothing going on." Han Xiao smacked his lips. Just as he was about to leave, Philip suddenly jumped out with a surprised expression. "Master, another army officer has become a beyond grade A, Let me see." Han Xiao was overjoyed and immediately switched to the surveillance interface. In the image, a figure burning with pugilist flames was sitting cross-legged in space like a small star. It was Lodhair, who had been in seclusion for decades. After holding it in for so long, this guy finally gave birth. Tui, he advanced. Han Xiao was greatly relieved. Originally, he thought that Lodhair would still need a few more years to complete the transformation, but he did not expect him to break through this boundary so quickly. Did he see how I defeated the 3 universal civilizations and feel inspired? Immediately switching to the king, Han Xiao teleported to Lodhair's personal dojo. As soon as he looked up, he saw Lodhair, who was completing the last step of his evolution. Han Xiao summoned his mechanical army and set up energy shielding devices around him. After waiting for a while, the pugilist flames on Lodhair's body slowly retracted, almost like a solid crystal. Just by looking at it, one could feel an oppressive sharpness. The attributes of a pugilist's energy were varied, and Lodhair's core energy attributes were sharp and armor-piercing, mainly for lethality. Lodhair opened his eyes, looked around, and immediately saw Han Xiao. He quickly flew down and landed in front of Han Xiao. "Your Excellency Black Star, I did not disappoint you." Lodhair's attitude was still respectful, not losing himself because of the sudden increase in strength. Han Xiao squeezed his shoulder, smiled, and said, "You're already a beyond grade A, so it's fine to address you as an equal. What do you think? Do you want to start your own organization? I'm still willing to be the blade in your shadow. If not for your nurturing, I wouldn't have what I have today." Lodhair shook his head, still using the honorific. Beyond grade as usually would not continue to be subordinates, but Lodhair had thoughts of repaying his debt. Furthermore, the Black Star Corps was also an exception, and there were already 2 beyond grade as in it. With the previous example, the latecomers would be more accepting. Don't belittle yourself. I helped you because you have potential. As Han Xiao spoke, he punched Lodhair's chest, making a dull thud. Lodhair could not help but take a step back, rubbing his aching chest. Seeing this, Han Xiao shook his head. "You have to continue training your physique. You're still too weak now. In the eyes of ordinary people, beyond grade A is already the peak, but in the eyes of veterans like us, this is just the beginning. You've just stepped into this threshold, and there's still a lot to train. I can fight dozens of new beyond grade As like you. I've seen the live broadcast of your confrontation with the 3 universal civilizations. I have no doubts about that." Lodhair nodded. He was also impressed by Han Xiao's performance back then, and his heart was filled with respect. "Since you've become a beyond grade A, I'll give you a gift. I'll get you a universal treasure weapon in a while. What type do you want? If you don't want mechanical equipment, I can also ask a mage to create an enchanted equipment for you, Han Shao said. Lodhair thought for a while. A pair of daggers will do. All right, after you've thought about it, send me your specific requirements, and I'll customize them for you. Han Shao smiled and suddenly changed the topic. By the way, speaking of which, I have a mission for you. Where to? Who to kill? How long will it last? Lodhair immediately became serious, showing his professionalism. Sai, don't always fight and kill. It's not good. Han Shao coughed and said, There's a pugilist genius with extraordinary potential who's receiving special training here. He already has a Beyond Grade A as his teacher. I hope you can train him for a while and pass on your experience to him. Carrot's bottlenecks were all in the early stages, and he could only level up quickly by accumulating insight. Different experts provided different insights, and Yining was almost squeezed dry. The freshly minted Lodhair was like a leek field that had yet to be harvested, a new tool. All right, I'll do my best to teach him. Lodhair nodded, but he was also curious. A pugilist genius who could make the army commander specifically find a Beyond Grade A as his teacher. How shocking was his potential? This was a bluish-green space. The ground was made up of bluish-green tree roots that were intertwined with each other. The ground was translucent, and one could see energy bubbles flowing within the root. It was filled with a verdant vitality. In the center of the space, a large number of roots rose up, forming a huge throne. A tall figure sat on it with his eyes closed as if he was in a deep sleep. Vine-like roots crawled all over his body, and blue and green fluorescent lights flowed around his body, making him look like lively little fairies. Suddenly, this figure trembled slightly and slowly opened his eyes. He raised his hand and gently patted the armrest of the seat. In the next moment, the roots on the ground moved on their own. They intertwined with each other and transformed into a flower bud. Then, the flower bud opened and a tall figure appeared out of thin air. She was dressed in a gorgeous robe and walked out from inside. As soon as he appeared, this tall figure bowed strangely to the figure on the throne and said in a low voice, "What orders do you have?" Hearing this, the figure on the throne leaned forward slightly and slowly said, "The information network has detected an abnormal network. There is an abnormal reaction in the information form alert network. There might be an unknown information collection that has interacted with us. Perhaps someone is spying on us. Go and investigate." Understood, Your Excellency Tree King. Chapter 1333. Somewhere in the World Tree Civilization, an artificial teleportation wormhole suddenly appeared and expanded. A few unmanned engineering ships sailed out and quickly set up shielding devices and communication bases. After the temporary base station was completed, the three direct Beyond Grade A mechanics from the three universal civilizations used this as a springboard to send the Veda over. In the data field, the quantum souls of Guardian Romo, Quantum Demon Judith, and the others appeared. In their vision was the quantum network node that was connected into a bright sea of stars. Pay attention to the data disguise. If there are any abnormalities, immediately disconnect the connection. Judith sternly exhorted him. After the initial preparations, the three universal civilizations officially carried out the network intelligence theft plan today. They sent out three direct mechanics to use the computing power of the main artificial intelligence of each civilization to browse the World Tree Civilization's network. The World Tree Channel was a springboard. Now, the wormhole coordinates that the three universal civilizations had explored were not only the data left behind by ES-God. To be safe, they changed locations almost every time they attacked, and they rarely used the same wormhole coordinates again. This was the first time this coordinate was used. They planned to temporarily seal it after stealing the network intelligence. The three of them did not have the time to waste. Using the basic coding language that they had deciphered not long ago, they cooperated with their teammates to infiltrate a quantum network node and began to collect data on a large scale, searching for public information on the network. Every second, a huge amount of data was packed and uploaded to the high-encryption information processing library temporarily opened by the three universal civilizations' main artificial intelligence. The three universal civilizations monitored the situation remotely, and their efficiency was extremely fast. It did not take long for them to complete the operation. The engineering ship immediately dismantled and retrieved all the devices, leaving behind a few strange-looking bombs on the spot before returning to the explored universe through the wormhole. After the engineering ship returned, the three universal civilizations closed the World Tree Channel on the other side of the wormhole. The artificial wormhole quickly shrank and disappeared. Then, the bombs that had been left in this area in advance exploded at the right time. Chaotic energy waves spread out, covering this area and erasing all traces. Peace was restored in the area as if nothing had happened. After an unknown period of time, a spatial rift suddenly appeared, and a translucent blue-green root stretched out from it. It was extremely large. Ripples appeared on the surface of the root, and a fleet flew out. At first, it was a little blurry like a phantom. When it completely left the root, the appearance of the fleet suddenly solidified. This is the abnormal reaction area shown by the Information Form Alert Network. Holy Tree Emissary, do you want to start the inspection? In the command room of the main ship, the captain stood beside a tall figure and respectfully asked for instructions. This tall figure was called Barbunny, and it had a ferocious appearance. It looked like some kind of arthropod. It was wearing battle armor, and there was a weak blue-green energy around it. It was not the same species as the crew around it. Within the World Tree Civilization, the Holy Tree Emissaries were a special group. They had a high status and were one of the executors of the highest will. Only individuals who had a deep connection with the World Tree could take on the role. They could use some of the World Tree's abilities, such as fast travel, physical transformation, and so on. Activate the information form camera and see what's going on here. Barbani's voice was short and sharp. This kind of device could retrace what had happened in an area at the information state level. The higher the power, the longer the retrace time, and the clearer the details. Once the order was given, the fleet quickly got to work. Light green screens scanned the surroundings, but there was no reaction from the areas they scanned. Barbarian. Barbarian Bard Barbarian 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 Bara Barbarian. The captain glanced at the scan results and quickly came to a conclusion. Even the traces of the older information form have disappeared, which proves that the outsiders have mastered a certain level of information form technology. The level of their civilization is not low. Looks like we have new prey. Barbunny was excited. The captain glanced at the time and analyzed. Judging from the time difference between us and the scene, the intruder's goal may be to enter our quantum network and steal information. That's a good thing. Barbunny didn't care. He wasn't worried about the information being leaked on the internet at all. The higher-ups wouldn't be able to find out the key secret. At the same time, it was also a layer of bait. The Information Form Warning Network covered the entire information collection of the World Tree Civilization. It could detect if an outsider was spying on it. As long as it was entangled with the information collection, it would send out a warning. However, it was only limited to the alarm, and there was no way to steal the other party's information. Therefore, they could only discover that there was an outsider spying on them, but they did not know the other party's specific situation. However, this was not a problem. The World Tree itself had the characteristics of a high-dimensional information body. The more outsiders knew of its existence, or the deeper the interference between the two sets of information, the more obvious the connection would be. As long as the interaction reached a certain standard, The World Tree would be able to send out a revelation and sense the direction of the other party's information collection. Then, it would send a long-distance team to search in that direction. They would eventually find the other party. This was also like the soul connection of a universal treasure. It could be located remotely, but the relationship was reversed. Most universal treasures found it difficult to establish a soul connection. They were extremely cold, and even if they acknowledged their masters, they would only accept them half-heartedly. The Evolution Cube and the Spacetime Amber were both like this, but the World Tree was a universal treasure that did not reject anyone. However, outsiders could only rub against it, and would not be able to obtain any substantial benefits from it. Instead, they would expose themselves. This was similar to how, if you said my name, I would be able to know you. It was similar to the characteristics of some information life forms in the universe, as if it had divinity. Therefore, the information on the quantum network was a kind of bait to catch the fish in the universe that had the ability to discover them and find prey. However, the information on the network was not fake data. It was indeed real information left behind by the daily activities of countless people. It was just that all the secrets about the World Tree itself were strictly restricted and not allowed to be uploaded. All right, your mission is complete. Barbunny let out a sharp laugh. I'll suggest that the Tree King activate all the information perceivers in the future form to see if he can foresee the information of this group of outsiders in advance. Let's go. As soon as he said that, the blue-green energy on his body suddenly surged. The huge roots that were quietly lying at the side seemed to have received a signal. They suddenly curled up and swallowed the fleet before quickly retracting into the spatial rift. The next moment, the spatial rift quickly closed as if it had never existed. A few days later, on a secret training planet in the Black Star Corps territory, Han Xiao floated in outer space and looked down at the two meteors chasing each other on the ground. They collided time and time again, leaving huge craters on the ground. Dust and sand billowed. One of them was Lodehair, and the other was Carrot, who was undergoing special training. Lodehair controlled his strength and constantly trained Carrot in actual combat. While imparting his martial arts insights, he was also practicing his precise control of his skyrocketing strength. Carrot was like a sponge, rapidly absorbing the essence and enriching himself. After finding the right cultivation method, this guy's improvement will be rapid. Han Xiao, who was watching the battle from above, nodded in satisfaction. Not only Carrot, he had also been training the other Beyond Grade A seeds in the past few days. He taught them according to their aptitude and provided customized cultivation plans. The effect was not bad. He felt that if this continued for a long time, many seeds should be able to sprout. Beep beep, at this moment, his communicator rang. Han Xiao took a look. It was a message from the 3 universal civilizations. Inside was the information about the World Tree civilization that they had stolen from the network. It had been fully analyzed. He raised his eyebrows and immediately focused his attention on the book. Because the players' intelligence channels were limited, it was very difficult for them to touch on high-level secrets. His understanding of the World Tree civilization came from the war period in his previous life, and it was basically common knowledge at that time. He knew very little about the situation of the World Tree civilization at this point in time, and this information would help him deepen his understanding. When there is no war, the daily life of the World Tree civilization is similar to that of the Galactic Society. Speaking of which, in my previous life, the 3 universal civilizations have always been dealing with invasions and have never attacked the territory of the World Tree civilization. This is the first time I've seen a detailed star map of their territory. Han Xiao looked through it carefully and realized that it was all ordinary information. None of it was as important as the secrets of the World Tree's main body that he had provided. At the end of the message, he found a note from the three universal civilizations, indicating that they would fulfill the agreement after some time and acknowledge the association's position. Although it hasn't verified the accuracy of the secrets I provided, the other ordinary information matches up. The three universal civilizations shouldn't doubt me anymore. As he was reading the message, his communicator suddenly rang again. Han Xiao took a look. It was a message from Oathkeeper, and the content made his heart tighten. Destiny's Child suddenly had an abnormal reaction? Han Xiao's eyes twitched. If he remembered correctly, the last time Destiny's Child had an abnormal reaction was when the intelligent plague broke out in advance. Furthermore, it had created a new batch of subbodies, and one of them was in his hands. This was something that Oathkeeper had told him personally after he had built a good relationship with him. At this juncture, Destiny's Child had caused trouble again. He felt that it was definitely not a good thing. Chapter 1334. Ancient Star Desert, Holy Covenant's Secret Base. A light flashed, and Han Xiao, who was wearing the King mechanical suit, was teleported to the exclusive throne teleportation platform. Law and Fei were already waiting there. Your Excellency Black Star. The two of them greeted him. Where's Oathkeeper? Han Xiao looked around. He's waiting for you in Destiny's Child's laboratory. It happened very suddenly. Please follow us. The two of them did not say much and led the way. Han Xiao followed them all the way to their destination. Walking into the laboratory, the room was full of busy operators. Han Xiao saw Destiny's Child locked in a transparent container and Oathkeeper standing next to the container at a glance. At this time, Destiny's Child had already woken up from his deep sleep. His body was curled up and trembling nonstop. White noise-like spots kept flashing, like a projection when the signal was bad, becoming very blurry. Oathkeeper was releasing soul flame, seemingly comforting the other party. The experimenters in the room were operating the instrument with sweat all over their foreheads, operating the binding field and reality anchor at full power. What's the situation now? Han Xiao came to the instrument and looked at the various parameters. He was curious. Oathkeeper frowned. Destiny's Child has woken up and is in the midst of an information state disturbance. The amplitude is the highest so far, almost breaking through the containment and transforming into a high-dimensional information state. It's not over yet. Have you found the reason? I'm not sure yet. We can only communicate with him after he stabilizes. Hearing this, Han Xiao snapped his fingers and summoned a set of stability anchors. He arranged them around to provide assistance. At the same time, he carefully sized up Destiny's Child. This was the first time he had seen his true body. Every time Destiny's Child activated his ability, it would cause an information state disturbance phenomenon, causing the birth of subbodies randomly throughout the universe. Rhodey, who had been receiving treatment, was one of the subbodies awakened after the last disturbance. He had already found a way to stop the transformation process. At this time, Destiny's Child suddenly stopped trembling and turned to look at Han Xiao, as if he was observing curiously. He suddenly raised his hands and pressed them on the inner wall of the container, releasing a happy psychic wave. Everyone heard a burst of childlike laughter out of thin air. Destiny's Child just stared at Han Xiao like this. Not long after, the flickering body gradually stabilized and returned to calmness. Seeing this, Oathkeeper stopped what he was doing and looked surprised. How did you solve it as soon as you arrived? He seems to like you a lot. This is the first time we've met. Aren't you being too unreserved? Speaking of which, why does your tone sound like you've been robbed of your love? What nonsense are you talking about? Han Xiao teased Oathkeeper, but he was also secretly surprised. Destiny's Child seemed to have an inexplicable closeness to him. Could it be because of his primal esper ability entity affinity and perfect energy affinity constitution? This is possible. After all, the primal chaos mysterious energy has thought that I'm handsome more than once and even wanted to take advantage of me, perhaps to primal esper ability entities. These two specializations were like the attraction of catmint to felines. No wonder Destiny's Child was fascinated by me the moment he saw me. Who told him to be so attractive to energy life forms? Han Xiao muttered to himself for a while, then raised his hand and knocked on the container. Destiny's Child immediately imitated him, and the two of them happily interacted. This scene made Oathkeeper feel a little annoyed. In the past, Destiny's Child liked him the most, and he would personally take care of the daily comforting work. He did not expect that Black Star would only come once, and Destiny's Child, whom he had nurtured for many years, would immediately ignore him. The most infuriating thing was that even before Black Star appeared, Destiny's Child had never been so close to him or so proactive. It was clearly me. Never mind, let's not talk about this. After looking at it sourly for a while, Oathkeeper finally spoke. All right, no matter what the reason is, it's enough that it's stabilized. I'll ask it what's going on. As he spoke, he pushed Han Xiao away, gathered Soul Flame, and communicated with Destiny's Child. A few seconds later, the soul ripple spread out again, and Han Xiao heard Destiny's Child's intermittent words. I feel the feedback of the subbody, the convergence of information, threat. Following Destiny's Child's narration, chaotic and blurry scenes appeared in Han Xiao's mind. Han Xiao's eyes narrowed. In these intricate images, he saw information about the World Tree, such as the image of the World Tree's roots stretching across the starry sky, or a group of people in robes surrounded by blue-green energy sitting on the ground and meditating. Oathkeeper did not know about the existence of the World Tree, so he was confused. What are these? Wait, let me ask a few questions. Han Xiao did not have the time to explain to him. He raised a few questions that did not make sense, and he quickly got a response. After listening to Destiny's Child's answer, Han Xiao's thoughts raced as he pieced together the information and analyzed it. Destiny's Child's sudden abnormal reaction originated from the World Tree. The two sides were entangled at the information form level, and it sensed that the World Tree was using a certain method to locate the explored universe. The reason why it sensed it was because of the subbodies. The subbodies that it had produced were all randomly distributed in the entire universe. Not only the explored universe, but even the World Tree also had a portion of Destiny's Child's subbodies that had awakened the ability to foresee. To Destiny's Child, these subbodies were equivalent to its eyes, ears, and antennae that collected information from the outside world. Not long ago, the subbodies of the World Tree had activated their foresight ability. Because the medium was related to the information collection of the explored universe, the two sides had intersected. Because this was where the main body was, the warning mechanism was immediately triggered. Thus, Destiny's Child activated its ability to foresee and share the memories and vision of the subbodies. During this process, Destiny's Child felt the threat of a natural enemy from the World Tree and even predicted the possibility of it being devoured by the World Tree. It almost wanted to transform into a high-dimensional information form and escape, which was why it had reacted so abruptly. So, the World Tree is using foresight to sense the explored universe. The three universal civilizations have already exposed themselves? Han Xiaoxin's heart tightened. As expected, as long as they came into contact, the situation would be irreversible, and they would soon notice each other. The World Tree civilization was stronger than the three universal civilizations. Even the three universal civilizations in his previous life did not understand all the abilities and technologies of the World Tree. It was too idealistic to completely hide their track. In his previous life, the three universal civilizations were beaten to a pulp. Even if they were lucky enough to win in the end, they did not completely understand the World Tree. The three universal civilizations were not clear about some of the special technologies that were not used in war, such as the information form warning network. Because it was the World Tree that took the initiative to invade, the information form warning network used to prevent outsiders from spying on them was basically useless. Even the three universal civilizations did not know about it, let alone the players in his previous life. The only good news now is that the World Tree civilization only sensed the existence of outsiders and did not have much information, so they used information form methods to search for them. As a result, they intersected and were detected by Destiny's Child. Han Zhao's thoughts raced. Fortunately, Destiny's Child had scattered his subbodies all over the galaxy. Otherwise, he would not even know if he was discovered. He did not want to be caught off guard while he was still foolishly spying on the information. Destiny's Child called the World Tree its natural enemy. One was a primal Esper ability entity, and the other was a space wonder. Both of them had information form abilities, but their focus was different. According to Destiny's Child's explanation, it could share the information of the subbody's contact. Because the subbodies were connected to the World Tree, they could observe the overall movements of the World Tree civilization in real time to a certain extent. However, there was also the risk of being exposed. Only when the subbodies actively used their foresight abilities and intertwined with information form could the main body use this as a disguise and take the opportunity to obtain the information the subbodies had. Otherwise, it would be easy for the World Tree to discover it. Even so, Destiny's Child was probably the only low-risk channel to monitor the World Tree's movement. It was more convenient, secretive, and efficient than the three universal civilizations' detection method. Such an intelligence channel was a pleasant surprise, and there was no reason to ignore it. Han Xiao thought for a while and said with a deep voice through the mental connection, "If you don't want to be devoured by the World Tree, helping us is the best choice. Only by eliminating the other party can we remove the threat once and for all. Otherwise, even if you escape far away, there will still be risk." Hearing this, Destiny's Child's body shook, and his voice was ethereal. "How can I help you?" Under the premise of hiding yourself, monitor the other party's movements as much as possible and tell me everything. "I can." Destiny's Child did not refuse. He suddenly clasped his hands together, and a small white ball of light separated from his body and floated in the container. It floated toward Han Xiao and stuck to the inner wall. Han Xiao understood what he meant and raised his brows. "This is for me?" "Use it to create subbodies, to extend my senses in the mental connection." Destiny's Child explained the use of this ball of light. When it activated its ability, it could give birth to subbodies in the entire universe, or it could also give birth to subbodies in a designated area. However, there was a precondition for the latter. It needed to use its own energy to encircle an area in advance and turn this area into an independent information collection before it could designate the birthplace of the subbodies. To put it simply, this was like a horse race, or it could be said that it was like a dog peeing to mark the territory. Just as Han Xiao finished listening to Destiny's Child's explanation, the interface suddenly had a notification. "You have triggered the mission Destiny's Child's help." Mission Introduction. Destiny's Child has a very good impression of you. Because it feels threatened, it has decided to ask you for help. Please do one thing. Mission Requirements. Head to the designated location and use Destiny's Child's energy to circle an area large enough. Reward: 120 billion EXP, plus 25 Destiny's Child favorability, 1 random reward, milestone talent. Infiltrate the enemy camp. Infiltrate the enemy camp. When you move in the enemy's territory, it will be harder for you to be noticed. At the same time, you will receive a 3% bonus to all stat. You want me to go to the World Tree civilization? Han Xiao was stunned. By limiting the birth range of Destiny's Child's subbodies to the World Tree Civilization's territory, the more subbodies there would be, the more information he would be able to obtain. Although there was a time limit to the ability to mark the territory, it was calculated in years, which was enough for long-term use. It seems like I'm the only one most suitable for this kind of agile job. Looks like I'll have to ask the 3 universal civilizations to go to the World Tree Civilization, Han Shao nodded. He told Oathkeeper to temporarily open the container and took out the light. As soon as he touched it, the light entered his palm and turned into an imprint that stored the energy that Destiny's Child had lent him. What's going on? What are you guys talking about? Oathkeeper had a puzzled look on his face as he continued to wonder. Han Shao thought for a while, pulled Oathkeeper to the side, and briefly explained the situation. You're saying that the 3 universal civilizations have discovered an even stronger unknown civilization? Oathkeeper was surprised. He then understood the whole story. No wonder the 3 universal civilizations gave in so much. So that's what happened. Keep this to yourself. It's not suitable to tell others for the time being. Remember to keep it a secret. Han Shao said with a deep voice. With the ability of Destiny's Child, he naturally could not avoid Oathkeeper. Only by letting him know the truth and understand the importance of this matter would he cooperate. In addition, Oathkeeper's character had been tested and was quite trustworthy, so there was no harm in letting him know. Don't worry, I won't tell anyone about this. Oathkeeper's expression was serious. He suddenly paused and asked softly, You mentioned in the regular meeting that the 3 universal civilizations recognize the association's position, so we'll have to help at some point. Is this what you're referring to? Han Shao nodded. That's right. If a war breaks out, the association's members will have to participate in the war with all their strength to fight against foreign enemies. This is the deal. Plus, we don't have many choices, so I need you to prepare more Sanctum keys. I understand your plan. I'll fully cooperate with you. Oathkeeper exhaled. If the Beyond Grade as fought with all their strength, they would probably suffer heavy casualties. Black Star most likely wanted to use this opportunity to show the truth of the unlimited Sanctum revival. As someone who knew the truth, to him, this was indeed a very feasible plan. Just as he was thinking, Han Shao suddenly patted him on the shoulder in relief. Then do a good job. After it's done, the organization won't mistreat you. Oathkeeper, Tisk, I was so busy digesting the information that I forgot to speak. Chapter 1335. The two of them talked for a while and reached a consensus. Han Shao left a throne and a lord's avatar in Destiny's Child's laboratory. He interacted with Destiny's Child for a while before leaving the room. He turned around to visit and comfort the many revivers who were living in seclusion in the Holy Covenant. The two sides had a meeting. The current president of the Beyond Grade A Association pointed out in the meeting that the Holy Covenant organization had to pay attention to the spiritual civilization of the revivers, help the revivers to keep up with the pace of the times, implement the basic principles of people-oriented, and implement the 2-1's requirement, which was to ensure the treatment of every reviver and not lose their vigilance. He eagerly hoped that Oathkeeper would be a good role model. The leader of the Holy Covenant organization, Oathkeeper, highly praised the current results of the association and emphasized that the two sides had always been in a positive relationship, contributing to the Beyond Grade as together. He hoped that the association would continue to focus on the common cause and cooperate with the Holy Covenant's strategic assistance. Many revivers expressed their admiration for Black Star's contributions to the Beyond Grade A cause and unanimously welcomed Black Star to come again to provide guidance and spur the Holy Covenant organization. No matter what, the two sides had a full exchange of opinions. After the daily exchanges, Han Shao left the Holy Covenant base and teleported back to the Black Star Palace a few star fields away. Returning to his office, Han Shao rubbed his chin. Without any delay, he contacted the leaders of the 3 universal civilizations and sent the information he had obtained from Destiny's Child through the encrypted channel. Not long after, his communicator rang. He received a remote conversation invitation. Han Shao turned on the remote projection and arrived at the joint office of the 3 universal civilizations leaders. He immediately saw the 3 of them with gloomy expressions. Black Star, where did you get this information? Is it true? You have to be responsible for spouting nonsense. As soon as they met, Marbruce asked a series of questions. His tone was extremely serious, as if he was questioning him. According to the information provided by Han Shao, the World Tree Civilization had already noticed the traces of the outsiders and was thinking of ways to track them. This was a huge matter that affected the overall strategy, so they could not be careless. This intelligence did not contain any evidence, and it looked like an irresponsible guess. Furthermore, even they only dared to carefully explore the uninhabited areas and had no clue about the World Tree Civilization's movement. Then, where did Han Zhao's intelligence come from? The 3 of them couldn't help but doubt the authenticity of this statement. I have a special intelligence channel. This is a special primal Esper ability entity called Destiny's Child. It has extraordinary abilities at the information form level. Han Shao explained Destiny's Child's abilities. Child of Destiny? The 3 of them looked at each other. Their small eyes were filled with doubt. This primal Esper ability entity did not exist in the known super high-risk Esper ability tables, nor was it recorded in the confidential database of the 3 universal civilizations. This was the first time the 3 of them had heard of this primal Esper ability entity. So you guys really don't know? Han Shao was helpless. He had once inquired about Destiny's Child's information, but there was no record of it in the dynasty's database. He had thought that the relevant information might be stored in the confidential database. It seemed like the 3 universal civilizations did not know about the existence of Destiny's Child either. However, the information form ability was indeed good at hiding its existence. Is Destiny's Child currently in your hands? Is it reliable? Lewis asked. It is indeed in my hands, and there's no problem with the intelligence. Han Shao nodded and hid the existence of the Holy Covenant. Hearing this, the ethereal Pope said with a deep voice, "There's no proof. We have to check before we can confirm its authenticity. Furthermore, such an intelligence channel should be controlled by us." Han Shao shook his head and said with a heavier tone, "At this point, you guys still have doubts about me? Who provided the confidential information about the World Tree? It was me, right? I showed my sincerity, but what did you guys do? In order to confirm if my information was true, you guys went to explore the World Tree Civilization through the wormhole, which eventually led to your exposure. Of course, from your standpoint, this is understandable. I understand you guys, but it's also a fact that you were detected by the enemy. No matter how correct your motives are, you can't change the bad outcome. It's because I knew that you guys might mess up, so I didn't tell you about the existence of the World Tree in the past." The 3 of them froze. Marbruce coughed and took the initiative to explain. "It's not that we doubt you, but we can't casually believe information with questionable authenticity. If we don't confirm it beforehand, it will be too late when the problem occurs. This isn't the first time you guys have said this, but what happened in the end? You guys are still acting according to the confidential information I provided. The so-called confirmation is just unnecessary in my opinion, and it will only increase the risk of exposure." The 3 of them opened their mouths, not knowing what to say. Lewis said, "Black Star, don't be agitated. We've always been cautious and haven't met any life forms of the World Tree Civilization. With just the perception of a primal Esper ability form, I don't think we can be 100% sure that the other party has already detected our existence. You still want to be 100% sure?" Han Zhao's eyes widened. Then, why don't we just show up and ask the World Tree Civilization? That way, it'll definitely be 100% sure. Lewis's lips twitched and he stopped talking. Marbruce said helplessly, "But the information," Han Zhao interrupted Marbruce and said, "I know you guys are worried. I don't expect you guys to trust me completely, but you guys stole the information on the network, so you should have confirmed the World Tree's attitude toward the outside world. Since everyone is prey, then we're already on the same side. Do you still need to worry about me having any bad intentions and specially guard against me? The threat is imminent, and now is not the time for internal suspicion. Be it me or you guys, we have to believe that what we're doing is for the same goal. We won't deliberately cause trouble. If I hadn't confirmed the authenticity of this information, would I have said it? If this information channel is exposed because you guys insist on checking, what should we do?" The three of them frowned. That was right. They were all comrades now, so they should trust each other. However, could it be that Black Star deliberately did not want them to confirm it to hide the fishy nature of this information? They could not help but think in this direction. Their identities determined that they had to consider all kinds of situations. Seeing their reactions, Han Zhao knew what they were thinking and shook his head in disappointment. At the end of the day, countless years of peace have made you guys arrogant, thinking that you can deal with any situation. Maybe my information gave you guys too much of an illusion, making you guys feel that you have the advantage and can control the situation. You're completely wrong. I hope you guys can recognize reality. The World Tree is stronger than all of you combined. As long as it finds us and starts a war, the situation will instantly go out of control. We'll be destroyed at any time and become the next Karma Republic. Then what do you suggest? Marbruce asked. I'll be direct. I won't hand over this information channel to you guys. Even if you don't believe me now, you should consider how to deal with this situation. The World Tree Civilization has advanced unknown detection methods and has discovered traces of outsiders. They have entered a state of alert, but they have not succeeded in tracking them. Therefore, I suggest that we stop the regular exploration and reduce the chances of further contact. We should temporarily wait and give more time for the Secondary Dimension Expedition team to find the World Tree's main body. But if we don't explore, how are we going to get the information? With all due respect, most of the information you guys have obtained so far is meaningless. Since there are no results, you might as well stop and use Destiny's Child's channel. What you mean is that we don't have to do anything and just have to listen to you obediently. We'll believe whatever you say. Do you think that's possible? The ethereal Pope at the side spoke with a dissatisfied tone. He paused for a moment before adding, either hand over Destiny's Child to us, or let us send researchers to study it together to prove that the information is reliable. Han Zhao laughed. Are you forcing me now? Yes, I can make concessions for the sake of righteousness. Let's study Destiny's Child together and dispel your suspicions. As long as we don't do that, it will seem like it's my fault. Because I have the channel, I have to make concessions. If I don't let you guys have a share, you won't accept my opinion. You're mistaken. Marbruce felt that the atmosphere was a little off and wanted to explain. Han Zhao interrupted him, and his smile slowly turned cold. You three dog***T things, I've tolerated you guys for a long time. You guys don't seem to have figured out who needs who. Do you really think I have no choice? I'm willing to protect the Galactic Society, which is why I'm cold. However, the universe is so big. Is this the only place you guys can stay? If you piss me off, I'll just leave with the Beyond Grade A Association and the organizations under me. Whether it's to the unexplored universe or the secondary dimensions, I'll leave you guys to deal with the World Tree Civilization alone. Do you want to try? The three of them were shocked. They had almost forgotten that the Beyond Grade A Association had a way out. With their abilities, even if they escaped to the unexplored universe, they would be able to live very well. To the three universal civilizations, this was definitely the worst outcome. As long as the Beyond Grade as made up their minds, they could completely abandon the galactic society that they had lived in for a long time. To be honest, even if all the living beings here died, it would not have anything to do with most of the Beyond Grade as there was no reason for them to stay and fight. If news of the World Tree spread, there would definitely be people who would choose to escape. If even Black Star, who had mastered the Sanctum Revival, was not willing to stay, one could imagine the choices of the other Beyond Grade as. With such influence, Black Star was not a partner with no way out but an equal with the bargaining power. He was a force that they had to fight for. Marbruce could not sit still anymore and hurriedly said, "Don't be angry. That's not what we meant. Black Star. Your Excellency, we're just stating the facts. We don't have any thoughts of benefit." Lewis also hurriedly comforted him. "It was my bad choice of words that caused a misunderstanding. Please don't take it to heart." The ethereal Pope had no choice but to lower his head, feeling depressed. Even after being scolded, we still have to take the initiative to apologize. As the leaders of the three universal civilizations, when have we ever been so humble? Seeing this, Han Shao put away his anger and regained his expressionless face. He slowly said, "I'll continue to share the information. Whether you believe me or not is your business. I can't be bothered. Also, I'll be making a trip to the World Tree Civilization's territory in a while to increase the surveillance of Destiny's Child. Remember to prepare the World Tree Channel or the multi-dimensional sky opening transportation device. If we don't even have this bit of trust, I don't think there's a need for us to cooperate." "All right, we'll take care of it," Marbruce answered before the other two. Now was not the time to continue bargaining. Han Shao nodded and suddenly said, "There's another thing. Hurry up and fulfill your promise and admit the independence of the association. Don't think about delaying it again and again. Don't think that you can shirk it off just because the war breaks out. It's still the same. At most, I'll just leave." With that, the communication ended, and the remote projection disappeared. Only the three of them were left in the room. They looked at each other with complicated expressions. "I didn't expect to be scolded by him in front of everyone. Did we force him too much?" Lewis smiled bitterly. "Don't underestimate him. How can a formidable person like Black Star lose his composure so easily? He's just using this as an excuse to make a fuss." The ethereal Pope shook his head, paused, and said helplessly, "But he did hit the nail on the head. Black Star is really—" Marbruce hesitated for a moment before sighing. "He's fully fledged." On the other side, Han Shao turned around and returned to his office. He snorted and threw the communicator aside. "These 3B** stards have dog faces. If I don't give them 2 slaps, they won't know who's the daddy now." Chapter 1336. As the saying went, even if the sky fell, there would be someone tall to hold it up. Currently, only the three universal civilizations and Han Shao were blocking the pressure brought by the World Tree. Most people in the Galactic Society did not know about it. Under the peaceful appearance, undercurrents surged. Half a month passed quickly, and it was time for the Star Ocean General Court. The Star Ocean General Court was hosted by the three universal civilizations, and the participants included the Supercluster, Star Cluster, and Star System civilizations in the universe. Unlike the regional civilization conferences of the various star fields, the Star Ocean General Court was the most authoritative civilization conference, the core of the entire galactic society. It was solemn and was also known as the Central Council. There was a fixed meeting every year, which usually lasted for several months. During this period, there would be frequent meetings to consider the issues submitted by the various civilizations, coordinate the development of all the galactic civilizations, mediate disputes, discuss the management of the galactic society, and so on, including but not limited to the people's livelihood, economy, military, disaster relief, and so on. However, most of the galactic residents did not pay much attention to this matter because they had meetings every year, and most of the time, they talked about some old topics. Most of the galactic residents would not deliberately pay attention to it. Usually, they would only casually look at the simplified version of the news media's summary after the meeting. The venue of the Star Ocean General Court was in the shape of a petal. In the center was the chairman's table, and around it were the representatives of the three universal civilizations. Extending out were rows of fan-shaped seats, and the seats were arranged according to the level of the civilization. Supercluster civilizations sat in the inner circle, and star system civilizations sat in the outermost circle. The invited news media had a special broadcast area. At this time, the venue was filled with diplomatic envoys from various civilizations. The meeting had been going on for quite some time. The chairman had just finished a round of voting and rejected a proposal to increase the regional security budget. He then flipped to the next topic, looked up at the representatives of the three universal civilizations, cleared his throat, and said loudly, "Then, the next topic is a joint proposal by the Radiant Federation, the Red Empire, and the Arcane Church. This proposal believes that the Beyond Grade A Development Union plays an indispensable role in maintaining the operation of the Galactic Society and has extraordinary influence. At the same time, it is dedicated to maintaining the peace and stability of the Galactic Society and has made indelible contributions. We hereby propose to amend the Peace Treaty and other galactic laws to make an exception and accept the Beyond Grade A Development Union, allowing it to enjoy an independent official status with rights and treatment equal to that of advanced civilizations. The proposer of the proposal, please come to the stage." The president read the agenda according to the script, and the hall, which was originally filled with whispers of discussion, suddenly fell silent. Other than a portion of the subsidiary civilizations that had already contacted the three universal civilizations, the other representatives were all stunned. The three universal civilizations had made peace with the Beyond Grade A Association not long ago, and now they're so eager to help? Not to mention the inside story, there was no precedent in history for a civilian organization to have the same official status as a civilization. The three universal civilizations proposal was the first, so one could imagine the backlash from the outside world. What kind of reason would make the three universal civilizations willing to bear such a price and seek political benefits for the association? Most of the representatives of the civilizations were dumbfounded. They thought this was just a routine meeting, but the three universal civilizations suddenly threw out such a huge bomb. The news media at the scene instantly perked up. This was the smell of big news. Under everyone's gazes, the dynasty's diplomatic representative stood up and walked onto the stage. He looked around the venue and slowly explained the reason for the proposal, emphasizing the unique position of the Beyond Grade A Association in the current galactic landscape. His speech was full of praise, almost praising the association to the skies. After listening for a while, the expressions of the representatives of the various civilizations became even stranger. Why does it sound so familiar? Did you guys slack off and change all the blockades to antonyms? When the representatives of the three universal civilizations finished their statements, the president announced the start of the debate and consultation segment. A large number of representatives immediately requested to speak. Although the Galaxy General Court was presided over by the three universal civilizations, if they wanted to add new terms to the Galactic Universal Law, they would still have to vote. Those who objected could raise their doubts after the presentation segment. However, as the final winners of the exploration era, the rulers of the explored universe with absolute power, the three universal civilizations naturally would not be so stupid as to give up too much power. They all gave themselves the privilege of one vote to veto and one vote to decide. One vote to veto the voting result of a topic, pushing it back to the proposal stage, and a new round of presentation, debate, amendment, and voting would be carried out until the result was satisfactory. If they used one vote to decide, they would skip the voting stage directly. However, their priority was lower than one vote to veto, which meant that only the three universal civilizations could waive one vote to decide. However, the number of times the three universal civilizations used their privilege could be counted on one hand. As long as it did not involve their major interests, they would not interfere. Most of the time, they would only act as referees and rarely participate personally. The representatives of the three universal civilizations dealt with the questions of the various participants with ease and avoided the sharp questions with a single sentence. Among them, the supercluster civilization was the calmest. They had received this news long ago and watched coldly from the sidelines while secretly trying to figure out what was going on between Black Star and the three universal civilizations. Amidst the excitement of the crowd, the voting segment soon arrived. The representatives of the civilizations who did not know about it previously considered many factors and were basically against it. No one wanted to set this precedent. The voting results were displayed on the virtual screen. There were many votes against it, and it did not reach the standard of passing the draft. The president took a look and said, "There are not enough votes in favor, so we'll reject this." Before he finished, the representative of the Radiant Federation knocked on the table and said calmly, "We'll exercise one vote to veto." The president nodded, not surprised at all. "Then, let's re-enter the proposal stage." "Please," however, before he could finish, the representative of the Red Empire slowly said, "We'll exercise one vote to decide." As soon as he said that, the representatives of the Radiant Federation and the Arcane Church agreed at the same time. Seeing this, the representatives of the various civilizations were in an uproar. They felt that it was expected but also surprised. The reason was that they had guessed that the three universal civilizations would exercise their privileges, but they did not expect the three universal civilizations to directly use two privileges. The three universal civilizations basically would not use two privileges at the same time. After one vote was rejected, they would usually let everyone vote again. During this time, they would lobby and fight for votes, which would more or less give the other civilizations a sense of participation. However, after being rejected, they immediately decided with one vote. The attitude of the representative was very firm, and the subtext was that this proposal had to be passed. He was very domineering and did not mind having a say in it. Are the three universal civilizations so determined to support the Beyond Grade A Association? What exactly is going on? The representatives of the various civilizations were itching. As many news media outlets rushed to forward the news of the three universal civilizations fighting for an official status for the Beyond Grade A Association spread like wildfire, immediately causing a storm of public opinion in the galactic society. The storm of the peace talks between the three universal civilizations and the Beyond Grade A Association had not been settled for long, and another shocking news broke out, instantly becoming the hottest topic. A large number of galactic residents could not understand the actions of the three universal civilizations. During the peace talks not long ago, although the three universal civilizations had taken a step back, they at least had a dignified reason. How were they going to explain this now? Just making peace was not enough. They even wanted to help the association become an official member. What were they doing? Compensations? First, they attacked aggressively, then they were scared into taking a step back. This was already embarrassing enough, But they did not expect the three universal civilizations to compensate the association and still insist that they were not scared. Only a fool would believe that. As soon as this proposal was exposed, it was strongly opposed by a large number of galactic residents. Originally, their dissatisfaction with the Beyond Grade as had been suppressed, but seeing that the association was about to become an official member, many people could not take it anymore and attacked the association. The most mainstream argument was that the association did not have the right to become an official organization and should not let a Beyond Grade A group have such an identity. Due to the series of intensification of the class conflict, the Beyond Grade A association had become the main target of hatred. Now that they saw the association develop further and were even about to be cleansed, many galactic residents were furious. This kind of mentality was like seeing their enemy living a good life. They were born with a deep prejudice. On the contrary, most of the supers in the various star fields were excited. They had always been looking forward to the Beyond Grade A association being the leader, but they did not expect it to really be so. Furthermore, it was the first time in history. No matter how the association did it, a large number of supers were full of admiration. With an official status, the three universal civilizations would not be able to publicize the illegality of the association. They would not have to worry about losing their citizenship in the Galactic Society after joining the association. Due to the three universal civilizations having the final say in the Galaxy General Court, many civilizations expressed their attitudes through various channels. They first acknowledged the association's important influence but tactfully felt that it was too much to make an exception. They claimed that they did not know about the private transactions between the three universal civilizations and the association and expressed their dissatisfaction. In contrast, the reaction of the players to this news was a little slower, mainly because most people did not understand the meaning behind it. In their opinion, it was fine as long as the Beyond Grade A association was strong enough. These political things seemed meaningless. However, after some storytelling players explained on the forums, many players finally understood the difference. Treating civilizations as countries means that the Beyond Grade A association used to be a company, but now it's a country? So, the Beyond Grade as are establishing a country? More or less. No matter how strong the association is, it's still a civilian organization. Now it's finally upgraded. I understand. The next main storyline should be the Beyond Grade A country, witnessing the birth of a different super civilization, and Black Star is the highest leader. Is that why it's called the Black Star era? Awesome, you know what I mean now. Sigh as an old player who fell into the pit in version 1.0, witnessing old Black start from scratch and achieve what he has today with my own eyes is really touching. It's as if I'm recalling my youth. No, I have to watch Pork Bun's Black Star Core videos from the beginning again. Previous poster, please cover your ID when you advertise yourself. Thank you for your cooperation. On the forums, many players were excited. When the three universal civilizations were in a cold war with the association, many players thought that the next main storyline would be a war between the two sides, but they did not expect it to end in peace. Now that the Beyond Grade as had established a country, in the eyes of many players, the main storyline mission would definitely revolve around this point. This time, they would definitely not be wrong. While the outside world was in an uproar over the association's promotion, Han Xiao had already made his preparations and set off for the territory of the World Tree Civilization. Central Galaxy, border of the Abyss of Stars. The huge fleet surrounded a multi-dimensional sky-opening transportation device. At this time, the teleportation device was being warmed up, and there was only Han Xiao inside the teleportation device. We've set the coordinates to a location that has not been activated before. It's located in an uninhabited area. If what you said is true, then the World Tree Civilization has an unknown detection method. You'd better leave immediately when you reach the other side and find a way to hide yourself. In the mechanical suit's built-in communication channel, the fleet commander Simon was carefully instructing him on the things to take note of. You guys just need to send me over. I'll take care of the rest, Han Xiao replied. You have the king mechanical suit anyway. We don't need to pick you up. Just act according to the situation. Simon nodded. In the end, the three universal civilizations accepted the suggestion and agreed to send Han Xiao to the territory of the World Tree civilization. Because Han Xiao had the king, there was no need to pick him up. To Han Xiao, as long as he left a throne behind, he could teleport at any time in the future. This was the reason why the three universal civilizations did not allow him to participate in the exploration. However, he was worried that the connection between the king and the throne would become a clue to his location, so he placed many thrones in different secondary dimensions. Furthermore, he had to choose the location carefully when leaving the thrones in the territory of the World Tree civilization. I hope I can achieve some results this time, Han Zhao's thoughts raced. This trip to the territory of the World Tree civilization was only one of the goals of helping Destiny's Child. Anyway, the World Tree civilization had already sensed an outsider. As long as he did not leak any information about the explored universe, he might be able to act boldly. If there was a chance, he wanted to see if he could find clues about the World Tree's main body on the other side. This was extremely important. Just relying on the expedition fleet was too random. At the same time, he also wanted to see if Virtual Purification Restore had any effect on the members of the World Tree civilization. Just as Han Xiaoxin was thinking, the multidimensional sky opening transportation device finally finished heating up. It began to spin rapidly and turned into a ball of light. Cut off all links, Simon said in the channel before turning off the communication network. Han Xiao activated the mechanical suit's isolation mode and blocked all the network links, including Philip, completely cutting off the network. Very soon, the multidimensional sky opening transportation device reached its limit. Buzz. Suddenly, a light flashed, and the teleportation device quickly stopped. The interior was empty, and Han Zhao's figure disappeared without a trace. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.